Welcome to the Lowell City Council meeting, February 20th, 2024. Start off with the prayer. Dear God, today as the session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all of those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Rourke.
Here.
Councilor Scott.
Here.
Councilor Yem.
Here.
Councilor Chow. Councilor Dakota.
Here.
Councilor Gitchia.
Here.
Councilor Janess.
Here.
Councilor Leahy.
Here.
Councilor Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Noon.
Here.
Councilor Robinson.
Here.
And present.
Thank you. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chamber for our family friend Denise Rita Pear, beloved wife of Albert Pear, with whom she would have celebrated their 54th wedding anniversary on September 13th of this year. She graduated from Lowell High School with the class of 1967. She was a communicant of St. Margaret of Scotland Church. Denise held numerous jobs that allowed her to be a wife and mom first, and would always find something to enjoy about them all. Her final job was her favorite. She began a career as a front office secretary at Lowell High School, where she would make many new friends and be lucky enough to work with already established friends. She retired in 2015. She enjoyed watching her grandchildren's sporting events. She was part of the old school generation of wife homemaker, where dinner was on the table every night of the week and the house was always in order. Besides her husband, Al, she is survived by her two children, her daughter, Christine, and Chris's son, Cole, of Lowell, her son, Scott, and his wife, Christine, and their children, Brady, Brock, and Lacey, also of Lowell, her mother, Rita, of Lowell, many more relatives, nieces, and nephews. We offer our sympathy to her family, relatives, and many friends. I would also like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chamber to all those who passed since our last City Council meeting. May they all rest in peace. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. God bless Coach, Scott, and Chris. Mr. Clerk, please hit the lights. Just for the record, Mr. Clerk, Councilor Chow is joining us this evening on Zoom.
Yes, yes.
2.1, communication remote, Zoom participation. Motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Dakota, second by Councilor Gitchia. All those in favor say aye, opposed nay. Motion passes. 2.2, communication ad hoc subcommittee regarding renovation of Superior Courthouse. Motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Robinson, second by Councilor Scott. Councilor Robinson.
I would just like to thank you for putting this committee together, and I think it's a great opportunity. Hopefully we can put our heads together and figure out something that works for the community. Thank you.
Sounds good. Best of luck. Place on file. All we've done. All those opposed. Motion passes. Discussion section 3, City Clerk. 3.1, minutes of the City Council meeting, February 13th for acceptance by Councilor Leahy, second by Councilor Janess. All those in favor say aye. Opposed nay. Motion passes. Public hearing is not ready to go yet. We'll hit section 6, City Council motions. 6.1, Councilor Mercia. Request City Manager have the proper department clean out air ducts at the Senior Center, especially in the great room, for better circulation. Seconded by Councilor Noon. Councilor Mercia.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to this motion about the air ducts at the Senior Center, I had this motion on before last Tuesday's meeting that discussed this very issue, but I felt compelled to keep the motion still on the agenda. The development is as follows. Today, I received a call from the attorney, namely Attorney Steve Panagiotakis, who represents the Condo Association Management Group, and he informed me that together with City Manager Tom Golden, they are working and preparing to negotiate a solution to cleaning out the air ducts, as well as other functional duties that will make a big difference at the senior center. Thank you very much, and they will keep us updated on this. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Councilor
Thank you,
Getchia.
Mr. Manager.
Mayor Rourke, I just want to thank the manager and his staff, the assistant city manager and DPW and the school department on taking care of many items over there, from the floor to the heating issues to the vents, and even the bathrooms need work. But at the end of the day, we should never see anything get in this shape. And that's really how do we resolve it so it doesn't continue to happen? What is the plan going forward? And I hope that we can work this out between the city and the owner of the property, because every day the seniors use this as an outlet to their social environment. So if you please could continue this and have a maintenance plan in place that just can give it a better environment, that would be much appreciated by many of the seniors over there. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. 6.2, Councilor Yem requests city manager have appropriate department apply for Massachusetts Preservation Projects Fund grants from the Massachusetts Historical Commission to preserve and restore the Smith Baker Center. Any motions to combine? A couple others? Councilor Robinson?
Can we please combine motions 6.2, 6.5, and 6.6 if the makers of the motions don't object?
Motion by Councilor Robinson, second by Councilor Scott. All those in favor?
Mr. Mayor, I would ask that they be separated, because the piece, when you start talking about the grant funding piece, that it's totally separate, and it would take a much longer period of time than it would for the other pieces. So I think that discussing them separately would give more insight, if that's okay. I mean, if it's the will of the body, I'll go along.
We take all three and go over options. Is that cool? Makes sense? All right. 6.2 has been read. 6.5, Councilor Getchia and Councilor Robinson request city manager update the city council on the status of the Smith Baker Center regarding repairs, demo work with timeline. And 6.6, Councilor Noon request city manager update the city council on the plan for the Smith Baker Center regarding public safety. We will start with Councilor Yem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This motion was a result of a constituent who called me to ask me to file a motion to preserve Smith Baker Center. And then I saw the Massachusetts Historical Commission announcing the Preservation Project Fund grants, where state will reimburse 50% of expenses on preservation properties, landscape, and site. And this grant is open up to municipality and non-organization. And the deadline is for March 15, 2024. Built in 1884, it's the first congregational church. Smith Baker is beautiful landmark building in the city for the past almost 200 years. Smith Baker has played an important role as a community center for various event meetings, and was a home to senior center before moving to Broadway. I remember attending Governor Advisory on Refugee held at the center in 1987, and then 1985, former Governor Bill Lowell held a public meeting there on refugees, and I was honored being translators. And I remember standing on stage looking out to the beautiful wooden pew and balconies as the sun came through the stained glass windows. I don't know what the condition of the building currently is, but I remember 2019, CBA was planning to revive the property. My thought, if the city applied and received 50% of matching, we can start buttoning up the building to prevent further deteriorations and working on restoring it. I would like to see Smith Baker as part and extension of the City Hall, with the community center on the first floor for public meetings, including City Council inauguration, and where nonprofit organizations, churches, temples can hold special meetings or function, and Lowell residents can rent for weddings, birthday party, etc. The second floor can house various city departments who are now currently pay rent to private owners. Assuming that it will cost $20 million to restore the Smith Baker, and if the state will reimburse 50% of the cost, the city can bond $10 million, and then the rent that was paid to other private properties by different city departments can pay for the bond. In 10-15 years, the building would be paid for. With that said, I leave up to our city professional staff to tell us if this can be done. Yes, I'm a dreamer. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Getchia and Councilor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. You know, I want to be 18 again, too. And I was in that building in 1989 for union meetings. It didn't look like that in 1989, and that is 35 years ago. Councilor Robinson was in those union meetings years later. That building hasn't looked like that since. I wonder when that picture was even taken. You know, we all want things, we all cherish things. That building is nothing but an issue for the city. Historic value, it just puts more dampering on the other buildings we already have. We have, you know, you look down the street, you got the auditorium. You look up the street, you got Kerouac Museum. We have no parking over there. What are we going to do, rent it out after 5 o'clock, after City Hall leaves, and on Tuesdays after 8? There's just nothing to that building that even remotely looks like that. And the sad part is that if this was a business, we wouldn't even have a second thought of renovating something like that. If there's pieces in it, you'd sell it. Okay. No business in the world would put that kind of money in. I believe when the CBA looked at it, it was roughly $20 million to get it to what they needed. Today, you look at that building, to take it down, you might be at $500,000, then you got to mitigate the same things you got to mitigate even if you restore it, all the hazardous waste and everything in it. It would be financially irresponsible to think that 50% of any grant, even if they gave you 50% of the total project, the city could afford at this time. We've raised taxes after taxes. This would be just crazy to even think that we could do something like that. At the same time, we have homeless people jumping out of the back of it as we leave here for city council meetings. It's definitely not in condition for anything other than demolition, unless we were an extremely wealthy community and didn't have something that mirrors it. We do have things that mirror that are actually better than that. If you go down to the auditorium, it's much, much better. You look at the Hall of Flags down there. This place is nowhere near that condition. That picture must have been taken in 1970.
It's 2019, Councillor.
That's 2019?
Yes, that's a CBA, 2019 CBA.
Someone did some good filtering. But you know, when you look at that building, it's nowhere in that condition, Councilor. And if you want to look at feasibility, if this was your business, it would fall apart. There's no way anybody would be responsible in government to say that's a good project for the city. That's more like what the building looks like. And it's just not something that anybody in here can take on. The DPD doesn't have the staff to go over there and do that. The manager's staff can't oversee that project. Even if, what is the amount that grant, do you know, Mr. Manager, is a maximum amount for that grant? Because every grant has a maximum amount, right?
Yep. Ma'am.
Actually, yes, I did look it up in preparation for the meeting. It's actually only $100,000.
Oh, yeah, 50% of 100 grand. I'm happy with that. Maybe we can get 50 grand and it can maybe board up the windows, maybe. I mean, it's just insanity that we're even sitting here talking about something like this when it has no purpose to the city at all, and we could use it if we leveled it. It could be used. DPD could go see an architect and see if we could get housing over there, or we could look at some satellite things over there. So, again, Mr. Mayor, I just think that this is not the purpose of government and government spending. $50,000 out of a $20 million at the time project, it's like throwing a pebble in the ocean.
So the motion says regarding repairs and demo work, do you want to take out repairs?
The repair piece was there in case the manager had already started into the project piece, because I did put in a motion back in September of 23, and it was just to say if you did do some work, let's see it. But I would be very surprised that we even got to that level of, and through you, Mr. Mayor, to the manager, did we even look into repairs of that building?
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to the council. Councilor, we've been looking at securing it at this point. We've had people in the building from the perspective of ensuring that people can't get into it, which obviously doesn't work all the time when people pull things back. So what we've been treating it as is sound and safety on the interior as well as the exterior to the best that we can.
Mr. Manager, you know the building, and I don't want to, I'm going to put you on the spot because you're the manager. This is something that the manager should come back to the council and say it needs to be demolished. But I get there's all this historical value out there, and everybody thinks that everything in the city is historical valued. If you owned a 57 Chevy, you surely would want a Tesla, and so to change a 57 Chevy into a Tesla would cost you much more than the Tesla was worth. So you would junk the car and buy a Tesla. And it's the same thing over there. You know, some things have historic value, but what is the value to the city at a time when we don't have the finances to do it? So I guess my motion would be make a motion to demolish it, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Robinson?
Good. Thank you. Again, I'm very familiar with this building. Growing up, my aunt used to run dances and different events on the weekends, all summer long for the kids in the acre. It is amazing, the historic value of it. I mean, there may be some salvageable pieces. I know that's huge now, architectural pieces, but in reality, I mean, unfortunately, it's seen its days. And I think we'd be wise to put an end to the suffering. Recently, as we're all aware, you know, people have been kind of in and out of the building. We board it up, they find another way in. Who knows what's been going on in there, what additional damage has occurred since anybody's really taken a hard look at it. We have so much on our plate currently with everything else going on with facilities and acquiring new properties and looking for development. I wonder, with it being prime location, prime real estate, I think, again, and I've said this before, I think it gives us another great opportunity. If it has to be demolished, it's prime real estate. Could we, as a city, I don't know why we don't do this, and I've seen other communities do it. We have a prime piece of real estate. We come up with the concept or a rendering of what we want that to look like. So, I mean, that might be a perfect location to do, depending on any height restrictions or anything which we can work to try to lift. Maybe we do retail first floor with mixed livable space, you know, workforce housing, whatever type above. And what do we want that to look like? Because it is a great location, right across from City Hall. So, I mean, why don't we come out with renderings and say, this is what we want, and put it out to bid, instead of just throwing a blank lot out there and saying, you tell us what you're going to do. I really think if we're thoughtful and smart, we have a great opportunity to do something for the community in that spot. And unfortunately, renovation, that might have been a worthy discussion 10 years ago, but I think we're way past that. And realistically, I don't even know where we can consider try to pull that money between the CSO work that we have to start looking at and everything else. We just acquired the school over in Pawtuckettville potentially. I mean, we have a lot of things on our plate right now, and there's going to be big ticket items coming down the pipeline. So I think we need to be smart about the moves that we make. Thank you.
Mr. Manager, want to answer that? Go ahead. I'll go ahead. Councilor Noon, go ahead. Want the manager to answer the question first? Yep. Mr. Manager?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through to the council. So, councilors, we have been looking at this, and it really depends on which, if we do take any federal monies or state monies, that would trigger us to do that. There is a couple of thoughts that we may have state money in there. We may or may not. So we have been working on looking at how to do this, and quite frankly, with the Mass Historic Review, that may or may not happen. If I could take these three back, and we'll continue to work on it and try to come back with a discussion that is something that hopefully the council will see. But it would be from the perspective of trying to rehab it with maybe some old numbers that we may have, as well as what could happen and what is the path forward to ensure that it is taken down in an appropriate manner. Council, you had brought up a couple of things that maybe there are things inside that could be, valuable or harvested, if you would. That's all stuff that we've been talking about to make sure that at some point we could preserve a little bit of history somewhere, given the fact that this has been basically 20 years of neglect So if you could give me just a little bit more time on this, we should have a path that I think would be acceptable. I would hope it would be acceptable to the council.
Council Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree. This building was a beautiful and amazing building many years ago. Surely I agree with some of us here that we want to restore and preserve that history. But with the condition now, maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago, when there was discussion with CBA under then Mayor Elliott, talking about CBA was interested in it at one point back in 2018, opportunity there to restore and renovate it, but it was a missed opportunity. With condition now, I'm worried. I'm worried that something may happen as we wait. It's the people. Just last council meeting, if you ask Councilor Robinson, what happened? What happened if that building somehow fell down and killed those unhoused person or persons? Make us look really, really, really bad. So we are waiting for something to happen. So as soon as you can act on it, the better, just so to avoid any, accident to happen. So, and that's why I filed this motion. I know this motion has been filed many times before. Mine is slightly different on the plan for it regarding public safety, and that's my worry that something could happen as we wait. Because this building is beyond repair. It costs an arm and a leg, and we can't afford it. As a city, we cannot. We have a lot of things to do, a lot of things that need to be done. So let's hope to get a quick answer from you, Mr. Manager, soon. Thank you.
Council Dakota.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This building's been vacant for 22 years. The city has put this out for an RFP, I believe, 4 times, Mr. Manager. So the city has done its due diligence. I think at this point, if I had my druthers, I'd have a wrecking ball on the building tomorrow morning and sell the land off for $250,000. It'll cost you $500,000 to raise it. Get a developer in there. And what have we been talking about for the last year? Housing. We need more housing. Perfect spot. Mix, whatever it be. But that place needs to come down now. And look, hearing from my colleagues right now, from most of them, seem to agree that that's the way to go with this. I understand the historical value of the Smith-Baker Center, but this time has run out. I thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Council Leahy, the council get you.
Thank you. I agree, this building has been gone, it has been left alone for way too long. But I like Councilor Yem's motion. I just don't know, and I'm not looking for an answer right now, but have we exhausted and have we looked in the right places? It's a magnificent building. Someone, somewhere, may want that building, but maybe we haven't put out, we put out an RFP to purchase it and renovate it, but have we put it out across the globe or whatever? Everybody knows the Nesmith House up on Andover Street, same shape. I was in that thing before they renovated it. That was, you think they would have knocked that down too, and look at what they did with that Middlesex Community College. So it's not gonna fall down tomorrow. Let's give it one last shot. See, I don't think we should be renovating, but if we can find someone that wants to come here and renovate that building, turn it back into what it could be the new home of the MRTA, Merrimack Repertory Theater. Who knows? So let's give it one last effort to salvage the building. If we can't, then yeah, it needs to come down. But I would like to see if somebody, and not us spend the money on it, but somebody else. We have the firehouse over on Mammoth Road, smaller scale project, but that's a beautiful building. hopefully someone would come in, buy that, and renovate it and bring it back to its glory days. So I'd like to see us give it one more effort, see if, maybe we haven't looked in the right spot, but let's see if somebody wants that building. The woodwork, the space, the architecture, it's a piece of history that once we tear that down, it's gone forever. Thank you.
Councilor Getchia?
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. We've been through this RFP process with Hamilton Canal District that doesn't have a building on it. I respect what the manager's saying, but we all know the outcome. Why not take a vote tonight to demolish that building? And if it fails, then it fails. But I would like to make a motion that we request the manager go out for an RFP to demolish the Smith Baker Center.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Getchia, seconded by Councilor Dakota. Councilor Yam?
Just a quick follow-up. 2019 CBA was entertaining of reviving the building, but things didn't work out from what I'm told, that because the city would like to see certain way that being done to the property, and also the timeline that CBA need to raise capital to revive the building, that the city somehow do not accept the timeline that CBA. So those two conditions that the deal fell apart. So like Councillor Leahy said, that give it one more chance, and I would defer not to make a motion to demolish it tonight, but to wait for the report back from the manager and his team of see what we can do to the property first. Thank you.
I'll just add, Councilor Janess?
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Mayor. Just my thoughts on this property are, as others have said, this has been neglected for decades at this point. The amount of investment needed to bring it back to a reasonable state that it can be used for almost any use you can imagine is almost unfathomable. For the age of the building and the condition, I really do think that the outcome is likely going to be that wrecking ball that Councilor Dakota spoke of. However, the one Hail Mary thing that I don't think we've done as a city with this building is to offer it up with no restrictions. We've always had the historic restrictions and, kind of trying to lead things on to be a community center or whatever. We've never given just an open shot, right, for anyone to come in and say, I want to buy the building, this is what I'm going to do with it. I would be fine with the city taking one last shot out there just to see if anybody out there wants to take that on and do it, because as Councilor Leahy said, once you swing that ball, it's over. It's never coming back. So because of that, I'm not going to support the motion to demolish it tonight, because I would like, Mr. Manager, us to see if that's a practical approach. But I suspect that the wrecking ball will be coming soon. But I'd like us to take one more Hail Mary just to see.
Mr. Mayor, can I have a roll call on the motion before us, please?
Other people I think haven't spoken yet on this, I want to speak.
But once you ask for a roll call, it should be taken.
I didn't ask for a roll call yet.
That's what I'm asking you to do.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can we take a roll call on the motion that's before us?
The councilors haven't spoken yet on it. Councilor Noon and Councilor Mercia.
Councilor Mercia first.
Oh, thank you very, what, age before beauty? Is
No,
that?
I didn't say.
I know everybody's sentiment and their frustration and their goal to take it down and put what's needed there. But the city manager just said, could you give me a little bit more time? And I want to honor that request to see if maybe there's one last ray of hope to do that. So as much as I might feel that I want to demolish it, I can understand your situation and your ideas, but let's give another shot at it and know that we put our full effort into trying to preserve it. So I won't vote yes to demolish. So I just wanted to say that.
Councilor Noon.
Let me say this. I like the suggestion Councilors Genesis provide, the restriction, giving no restrictions to whoever want to purchase or use that, take over that building and renovate it. I like the timeline on that as well. So let's say, give you 5 months. to do that. And, or maybe, I don't know, 5 months, and then if nothing happened, take it down. So I, like Councilor Mercius, will not vote just on it until we take it down tonight. I want to give the managers time. That 5 months time, that would be my suggestion, to look at developers and with no restrictions to that developers to develop it. It'll be community centers, whatever that they wish. So let's do that. Thank you.
Councilor Robinson, last comment.
Thank you. I have a couple concerns about this, though. The reason this was brought forward is a safety concern for the neighborhood. Now extending a 5-month timeline out. B, we're talking about raising parking rates. We have a whole row of metered spots that have been bagged because we don't want people parking there because it's a safety issue. I mean, this place is a safety issue. So realistically, through you to the manager, what is you think a reasonable amount of time, that, kind of quick here, that we can get a response back as to what options might be there? Because I think, kicking this can 5 months from now, we could end up in a world of hurt. I think we need to really, if we're going to move on this and figure out, do we have any options? I like the Hail Mary part of saying no restrictions, but again, I think if we were going to go that route and someone does want to take this project on, we have to have timelines on them, because we can't just transfer ownership and still have this risk to the community sitting across the street from the City Hall. So, I mean, all of these things need to be, if we're going to give one final shot at this, what's a realistic timeline that we should expect a response back? And what's a realistic timeline that whoever wants to step up and take this property over, if there is anybody, is going to be expected to complete this project, or at least make it secure and safe before they finish the next, for the first phase?
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to the council. Council, if you could give me till March 5th, which 2 meetings away, let me put together a plan of attack, if you would, in regards to some things that we had previously talked about. I, like many of you, am extremely concerned with this building and have been extremely concerned with this building, but facing the piece of taking it down is troubling, obviously. And it's a decision that was made far beyond prior, many years back. But Council, to answer your question, if you could give me till the meeting on March 5th, let me come in with an idea of what we could try to do to try to give it that last ditch effort. And from that perspective, maybe work in tandem with the unfortunates of putting it out to bid at the same time, while still looking for that last-ditch effort from, the historical societies of the United States, or whatever the case may be. If that's acceptable, Council, I could probably do that, and then I will have that done by Tuesday the 5th.
Thank you for that response. I personally feel like that's very reasonable, and I'm willing to give to the 5th. Thank you.
All right. Basically,
Just quickly.
please.
All right. If I like what the manager said, I think we should give it one last try, a couple more weeks. Let's reach out to different outlets across the states if we can. And Mr. Manager, if it really is in that bad a shape, then we need to close that street down tomorrow. So I'm just going off of the arguments here tonight. If it's that dangerous of a building, then that street should be closed. So I don't think it's that dangerous, and that's why the street isn't closed. So if you could do some work on this the next couple of weeks, that would be appreciated.
Councilor Getchia, move the question.
Mr. Mayor, it obviously is that bad. We want to protect a car over a person. We put bags on meters so the thing doesn't fall down and hit your car, but we don't block off sidewalks. So obviously it is that bad. And obviously someone could get hurt. And I just think that there is no solution in that amount of time. And we got it bagged off so we all know there's a need for safety over there. So, and again, just move the motion.
Roll call.
Mayor Rourke.
No.
Council Scott.
No.
Council Yem.
No.
Council Chow.
No.
Council Dakota.
Yes.
Council Getchia.
Yes.
Council Janess.
No.
Council Leahy.
No.
Counsel Mercier.
No.
Counsel Noon.
No.
Counsel Robinson.
No.
Motion fails.
Past 7 p.m., we'll do the general public hearings. 4.1, ordinance to amend parking rates for FY24. Second reading, actually. Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to variance articles in Chapter 266 as they relate to parking rates and fines. Article 7 entitled Parking Meters, Article 9 entitled Public Off-Street Parking Areas, and Article 11 entitled Miscellaneous Parking Fines. I'll start with the hearing open to all those in favor. All those in favor? Just state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Good evening, and thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Ryan Faria, and I live on Campbell Drive in the Upper Highlands. I'd like to voice my support for both the ordinances tonight that seek to amend the parking rates in the city. In the last 2 years, the city has had to subsidize the Parking Enterprise Fund to the tune of nearly $6 million, of which about half has come from certified free cash and half from ARPA funding. During the FY 2024 budget cycle, a proposal to amend the rates was put in front of the council, and due to public opposition, this was referred to a finance subcommittee for further review. Monthly pass holders and downtown residents were the primary speakers in opposition, as they pointed out that they would bear much more of the burden than transient parkers. This argument was that during COVID, very few people used the garage, they still paid their monthly dues. And during the parking amnesty timeframe, when it was essentially no way to pay for street parking, they still paid their dues. These arguments were valid and created a need for a new ordinance to help more fairly and more materially raise revenues in the parking fund. With a new proposal outlined today, I believe the council has heard this opposition, improved the new ordinance to amend rates across the board in a manner that will spread the burden more evenly between monthly pass holders and transient parkers. As we look at the past performance of the fund, as well as the projections of this fund over the next 5 years, it is very clear that a change is needed. It is my hope with the passing of this new ordinance, the city is taking a step in the right direction to help bring this fund to self-sufficiency so that a taxpayer subsidy is no longer needed. This would free up more money for funding for the city to continue making long overdue investments in our roads, school buildings, and public safety buildings. I ask for your vote of approval on these ordinances. Thank you.
Are you all speak in favor? In favor?
Good evening. My name is Yunju Chen. I live on 527 Pawtucket Boulevard. I'm here to support the amending of parking ordinances. However, before you vote, I ask you consider some changes. Hours of operation. New proposal is proposing to have meter parking until 10 p.m. This seems very late. Currently, most people don't pay parking after 4 p.m. since everyone knows that no one gets ticketed after 4 p.m. What is city's plan to enforce parking meters until 10 p.m.? Even in larger cities, parking meter hours end at 8 p.m. And the new proposal, all parking garages seem to have same monthly rate. However, transient rates are different from lots to lots. I understand you're charging higher rates based on the demand. If this is the case, why shouldn't monthly charges follow the same logic? Some parking garages have rates in 30-minute increments at parking garages. But when you park on the meter parking, this is not the case. If I want to stop and pick up a dinner, I need to take either a chance of getting parking ticket or I need to pay for a full hour. In other communities, same parking system, you can pay by 15 minutes of increments. And I'm assuming this could also help some other businesses that people are coming to just do pickup. Some garages per hour garage rate on some garages, per hour garage rate is lesser than low demand zones of meter parking. There is a lot of costs related to running a parking garage, and no way we should charge less to park your car in the garage than in a meter. I understand that you're trying to get people to park more in the garages, but amount of wear and tear, security, and the machines that goes up and down, and charging credit cards and all of that, we shouldn't be paying more on a meter parking than on at a garage. City's parking budget has $6 million in deficit for the past 2 years. Ryan actually mentioned this. And in FY24, it's projected to lose over $2 million. City's parking enterprise fund is supposed to be self-sufficient. And so unless we raise some of the rates, what is our plan? It's going to be subsidized by all the taxpayers. And I believe people that are parking their car in the garages and the parking meters should pay for their parking rather than having everyone that's paying real estate taxes to subsidize those rates. I do empathize with many people who are here today to address the concerns of higher parking, especially the businesses. However, if the parking rates aren't raised, then rest of the city will have to increase taxes and other ways to fulfill this. Thank you for your consideration.
Anybody else in favor? In favor? The portion of the hearing is closed. Any other opposition? Opposition?
Hi, thank you, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name's Andrew Jacobson. I'm at Brewed Awakening Coffee House on 61 Market Street. I'm against this for a couple of reasons. First, last year, I think it might have been, I wrote everyone when when you guys were approving the rise in the market and the parking garage rates. And what I said at that time was that just raising the rates isn't going to do anything unless we change what's happening in the downtown. The downtown itself has seen a lack of business, especially during the day. I can't speak to a lot of the night business. The bars can do that. But during the daytime, there is a lot more parking available on the streets and in the garages. So we rose the rates, and what I said was that unless you increase the economic activity, meaning the customers coming into the city, we're going to end up having to raise rates again. 40 years later or so, and now we're here today, and we're seeing again raising the rates. I understand we're in debt on these garages, especially the one by the courthouse. But we're a dog chasing our tail unless we can fix the downtown and make it more active and provide more of a reason for people to come down, both from outside of the city and the existing residents. We don't have that right now. And all we're going to do is chase away the people that are coming into the downtown who are supporting these businesses and the residents that are living down here. And it is just supply and demand. We have a lot of supply of parking spots. You can come down during the day and you can see on the streets. In the garages, I think on Market Street, at most, the first 3 levels are, third is probably not even filled. First and second, definitely. Third, maybe halfway. Fourth is usually not. And fifth, you might see a car or two. We're not even enforcing the existing current rules right now. Like previous speaker was just saying, we're stop tagging cars usually after 4 p.m. and most people know that. In the garages, I can go on each floor that they're filled, and I could probably find 10 more spots because there are cars that for some reason in Lowell feel like they can take multiple spaces on that one parking ticket, and we're not doing anything. So we need to enforce what we have on the books right now. And again, we need to really look at what we can do to try to get more customers in here. One of the ideas that I know I've spoken with Councilor Robinson a year ago, I know some other folks have heard this, on ways to we have to be unique. We have to be out of the box thinking now. As I mentioned to you in an email, Lawrence is, no offense to Lawrence, but they are kicking us by getting a rooftop deck Italian restaurant, and we can't do anything like this. We should use the 5th floor of the parking garage possibly as our own little snowport, seaport area by having retail huts, a small little bar. You can have games, you put plexiglass up. The rent and the fees that you have for the vendors there can go to the parking fund. You get more garage people in there, customers, because they're going to just go upstairs and walk. And then from a downtown perspective, they're going to be like, hey, I'm already parked. I can just go walk around, eat dinner, have a drink or two, maybe go to the show or something. We have to be creative like this to find new ways, because I think just raising the rates as they are right now, or they potentially could be, all you're going to do is hurt the students, you're going to hurt the businesses, and you're going to then just have to raise rates again because there's less people parking in them, and now you have to figure out what we're going to do. So it's going to be a vicious cycle until we actually figure out how to improve the activity downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opposition? Opposition?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Council, thank you. Mr. Manager, thank you. My name is Craig Faulkner. I'm a downtown resident and business owner. My concern in this is that I would like to know if any analysis has actually been done about the amount of money the city loses by not enforcing parking after 4 p.m. And when they say that, most people know, I own a business right downtown, and I hear regularly when people pull their cars up and go to pay the meter, people walking down the street yelling at them, even if from across the street, don't wait, don't pay. They don't even come around after 4 o'clock. So this is something that's well known all around the city. So how much money do we lose there? We can't even enforce beyond 4 p.m. The thought that we could enforce until 10 p.m., I just think that that's unreasonable to think we can do that. I also think that for my business, there's actually very little street parking, so I think the majority of my customers actually end up going to the garage anyway. But they come into town with the hope that they're going to get street parking and not have to pay, and then end up going into the garage. So we're not necessarily going to decrease business, with the exception of we are announcing to the other communities around us that now you have to pay until 10 p.m. So we're incentivizing people not to come downtown. Beyond that, in the Roy Garage, I know that the machine to pay on your way in and the machine that you can pay on your way out rarely ever works. So we have the attendants that are in the office being called out. Now, I'm a pass card holder. I have to wait sometimes 15, 20 minutes. There are times when there's no attendant and they have to get someone from the John Street garage to come out, and I'm stuck here. I can't even get through because these other cars are blocking me from getting out for 20, 30 minutes, and then they just swipe them out and let them out for free. So I have to assume that if we've considered raising the rates to $1 an hour more on the meters than Boston is currently charging, that we had to have done some analysis on how much money we've left on the table by not enforcing the current parking rules that we have. So I think before we jump into potentially punishing the local businesses and incentivizing people outside our community to not come into this city, we ought to make sure that we can't make up a large amount of this shortfall by simply enforcing what we currently don't enforce at all. Thank you for your time.
Anyone speaking in opposition? Opposition? That part of the hearing is closed. Comments by the council? Council Janess?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, thank you to everyone in the administration who's worked hard on this ordinance and has made a bunch of changes from the last version we saw. I think this is a good step in the right direction, and I want to thank the speakers who came down to speak on this tonight, both for and against. There were a couple things that I wanted to ask and state before we get too into this, but one of the reasons that there has been a subsidy from the general fund for the Parking Enterprise Fund is that the city historically has recognized the public good of having garages and metered street parking. There's overhead associated with running that enterprise, of course, but the fact that it exists is a net public good for the city. That's why that money flows into the enterprise fund. The same way tax dollars subsidize trash pickup. We've all agreed that having trash pickup is a public good within the city. So I don't think that the Parking Enterprise Fund needs to operate at break even. I'm fine with a small subsidy. We could have the argument about how big that subsidy should be, and also how we calculate it. You know, building the new garage is obviously quite a driver in some of these costs. But that's something I think we all need to consider and think about while we're going through this process. Secondly, I do agree with the speakers who say that 10 p.m. is too late to enforce the meters, particularly when we aren't enforcing them in the late evenings now or late afternoons. I went and looked at other cities around the state. Lawrence, Haverhill, Cambridge, Worcester, Salem, Boston, Springfield, Somerville, New Bedford. None of them go past 8 p.m. on their meters any day of the week. Most of them stop at 6. Some have varied options depending on where the meter is. I think that's something we aren't necessarily looking at that maybe we might want to look at. Try to figure out, you know, where it might make sense to run a meter to 6 versus run a meter for 8. And when we make those decisions, maybe we can come to other decisions about how many meter maids we need on staff in order to enforce this later in the day. And I guess that's one question I have for the parking director is what is the plan in terms of staffing in order to be able to enforce till 10 p.m.? I don't think I can support 10 p.m. I'd really like to see 8 at the absolute latest. And then the other question I had is about the timing of this. Right now we're late February and we're talking about raising these rates. There's already inflators built into these ordinances to raise the rates at the beginning of the fiscal year. I don't think it'd be appropriate to raise rates twice in 4 months by passing this and then have the annual CPI inflator kick in on July 1st. I think that's very unfair to folks. It makes it very difficult for anyone who's planned out their calendar year budget, whether it's a condo association, a business, or a resident who's planned for these costs, to have them go up now and then have them go up on July 1st. I think that's asking a lot. So I would ask that we consider either delaying the implementation of these rates, whatever we decide they are, until July 1st, or as part of this ordinance, we include language that says we are not going to do the CPI inflator this year on July 1st, because I think that combination is not good and sends a bad message to folks. I'd be interested if the parking director is able to respond to some of these questions when he has a chance. Thank you.
Mr. Manager, you want to do that now? We want to hear more comments.
I'm sure Mr. Ryan can come up, but council is looking at this as well. The timing, the raising rates, very good point, Councilor, bringing that up. But we are looking to go to 10 o'clock, given the fact that we're looking to go into the neighborhoods as well. Some of the neighborhoods that we've had issues with, issues on corner parking, that's the reason for the 10 p.m., the 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. So that could be something that I think is necessary, especially when we have many complaints in neighborhoods, in and around, and it's not just the university. Pretty much every neighborhood has had some type of issue, or some type of challenge, or some type of problem. This is not an easy discussion to have, because it puts us at a bad spot with our enterprise fund. But that's that reason for that 10 p.m. time frame. Mr. Ryan, do you have anything to add, or as far as what the council is looking for?
We do. We have 3 people out on during the day ticketing cars, and we also, in this year's budget, we were allotted 2 positions on a Tuesday through Saturday shift, and they work from 10 in the morning until 6 o'clock at night. Okay. And we also have budgeted 2 positions that will go from 2 in the afternoon until 10 o'clock at night. The 10 to 6 shift was fully staffed until Saturday. We had somebody leave, so we have 1 person. We've had 2 people out there from 10 to 6 o'clock at night, and they were working Tuesday through Saturday. Okay, and I'm trying to hire the second shift from 2 in the afternoon till 10 o'clock at night. And that's really to fill the void for up to 6 o'clock because I know people know that we're done at 4 o'clock. And that's the reason I went after those positions. We need to enforce from 4 to 6. That is a good chunk of change that we are leaving on the table. And in addition to that, the residential bylaws require residential parking in the residential zones until 10 o'clock. That has never been enforced. So that's why I went for those 2 positions. Am I going to cover the whole city with 2 positions? No, but it's a start. And that's what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to get people to, I'm trying to get coverage until 6 o'clock at night downtown, including up to 10 o'clock in the residential areas to enforce all of that. We also enforce now the events that are going on at the Songus because we're doing some on-street parking, and now I can enforce during some of those events, so I'm getting additional income there. But the equipment at the Roy Garage, it is old, it is breaking down, and it's the next garage to get scheduled to be repaired within a month or 2. We're waiting for the internet connection to be brought into the building, and we will have new Amano 1 equipment installed there. We already have it installed at the Early Garage and the Lower Locks Garage. Brand new equipment. It really works really well. We don't have any problems with it. And the Early Garage has probably been installed for 3 or 4 months. The Lower Locks has been in for about a month. Okay, and the Roy is the next one on the list. So 2 to 10 residentials, the equipment. And as far as events go, at the Roy Garage, we did have a fundraiser for the House of Hope a couple of years ago. It was planned for the roof. Because of the weather, we had to go 1 floor down. It's just kind of a logistical challenge. We have 1 elevator at the Roy Garage. It was pretty tough bringing things up and down, and they had all kinds of sport cars that they drove in and things like that. We can't put a field on the garages. There's just too much dirt, too much weight to add to the garages. We can't do that. Lawrence was designed for that, so we just can't do that. Are there other things we can do? Absolutely. Love to do them. That's why we did the House of Hope. So if there's any interest in any group doing anything at a garage, I'd love to talk to them.
Thank you. Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that we hate to say it, but you have to raise fees sometimes. For the people that use it, they're going to be paying, so the taxpayer in general isn't hit with that burden. I understand that. But as a city councilor, we can sit here and make all kind of ordinances and laws and rules, but if it's not enforced, it means absolutely diddly squat. So you could take your fees, the parking meters, and instead of it being 6 o'clock and you're going to add it to 10 o'clock, you could do it to 2 in the morning. But if you're not going to enforce and have people out there, that's where you're going to generate your money. And I'm not trying to be facetious or mean, but I'm thinking, and I heard from many, many people on the phone that called me, that the 10 o'clock is a little bit too much. Now, I would support Councilor Janess to delay just to see if we could do maybe this. In the summer, it goes to 8 o'clock. In the winter, to 6. The reason I say that, there's more people out in the summer. And then take your crew that you got and devise it in such a way that instead of only 2 people going out, you have like 4. You need the staff to get out there and bring in that revenue. That's, you're either going to get it, maybe you won't have to get it from raising the fee to that extent, and you can wait for years from now, because you have the staff that's going around ticketing the people that could care less, because you can't fool the public. They know that, hey, they're not going to come around here. It's just like the graffiti law. Let's paint the city, because nobody's going to catch us. We can do what we want, but if you're on top of it, then it sends a message that you can't get away with it. So that's all that I'm saying. I don't mean to, but I heard so many people say 10 o'clock is a little bit too much. That's the only problem that I have. And enforcement, we need to hire the people. We have to spend the money to make the money.
Exactly.
And we gotta enforce it to the people that could care less about, I'm gonna park here and I'm not gonna pay, because nobody's gonna come here and ticket me. Well, let's call them wrong, and then everybody, your garages will be doing well. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Chow is on Zoom. Like to add a comment? Councilor Chow?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I thank Councilor Jeunesse and Councilor Mercier probably said it best already about the time frame. Before I make a comment, what I think in agreement with Councilor Mercier as well, I want to thank the manager's office and Terry Rines and his office for pulling together this proposal. A lot of work have been put into it, and there have been a couple of finance subcommittee meetings as well, getting input from the public. But what you don't see on the presentation tonight also is that, you know, the changes in the parking meter is also a response to some of the business concerns about that they are parking in front of their businesses, or the residents parking, or, you know, when we talk about residents, not necessarily the local people, other people come park on the street and leave it there all night. It could actually affect and impact their businesses negatively, especially some of the business around the downtown periphery. So it is really it's a balance that the managers and the parking director is proposing in terms of the fee, and also limiting the number of hours people can park there for a long time. But the most important discussion coming out tonight is that I hear that parking enforcement or the meeting till 10 p.m., that is a little bit late. We talk about public safety. It's not really safe for the parking clerks to go around, especially to the neighborhoods where it's not as lighted as it might be in downtown area. I think a reasonable time would be 8 p.m. And I would support 8 p.m. Across the board, because I think it might be difficult to say 8 p.m. for a few months or 6 p.m. For a few months. People would just forget and not think about just pulling the meter in when they used to put it at 6 p.m. All of a sudden it pushed to 8 p.m. But if the will of council agrees to time frame, that's fine by me. But I think just the 10 p.m. itself, I think just too late. Keep it at 8 p.m. across the board. I would support that. And in terms of budgeting, come with a budget, in terms of cost opportunity, 2 hours difference from 8 to 10 p.m., I'm not quite sure if that will make a big difference in the overall budget or revenue coming to the parking enterprise fund. I would definitely request to have it 8 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Manager, can you please explain the reason why that 10 p.m. was put in the ordinance again?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to the council. Councils, we're trying to respond to the problems out in the neighborhoods. And quite frankly, with cars parked on corners and things of that nature, and sometimes with the police department just being busy doing other things, we were trying to effectuate that type of change within the neighborhoods. And we thought that the 10 o'clock piece would quite frankly make a better quality of life for the people that actually live in the neighborhoods. So that's where we went with that, with the 10 o'clock piece. So there was nothing else around that other than just that.
Thank you, Councilor Gitcha.
Thank you, Mayor Rourke.
Then Councilor Scott, then Councilor Robinson, then Councilor Jeunesse. Councilor Gitcha.
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. I think we're trying to serve two masters with this at the same time as we get to the 10 o'clock, and it's public safety at that point. It doesn't really, how does that come out of the enterprise fund to go over that way? One is public safety. We're looking at outside areas, parking on corners. That's not designated within the parking structure, as I've seen it in the last few finance departments. Through you to the manager or the CFO, what is the cost for the parking department's employees, roughly?
Mr. CFO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Roughly, in FY 2025, we're looking somewhere in the neighborhood of $600,000 for employees.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, to Parking Director Ryan, I've been in all those meetings with you during the finance department and everything, and My question is, the first time I've ever heard that they don't get a ticket after 4 was tonight, and I didn't really compute that. But when you look at this, when you have someone's designated time from, say, 10 to 6, nobody's writing a ticket from 5:30 to 6 on that shift. I'm sure there is downtime to go back and maybe download software or do something that they go back, because if you're out in, say, Pawtuckaville, you got to drive all the way back to the parking area wherever your vehicle is. So I wonder how many tickets are actually going to be written between 9 and 10 anyway, or 8 and 10, because of darkness and everything else.
Well, the residential area is set up until 10 o'clock, basically to protect the residents from other people from like the university, kids coming in and parking late at night. And that's why that's until 10. And it's a little different from downtown. We're trying to keep the people who don't have parking rights out at least until 10 o'clock. And so as far as the nighttime goes, we can do it, absolutely. And I think where the ordinance has been in place for a long time that says 10 o'clock, that's what I was trying to catch up to get my people out there until 8, to enforce what's on the books.
No, I understand that, but maybe I'm misinterpreting what the manager is saying with parking on corners, public safety. I don't think we're talking about the residential designed areas. We're talking about people parking on corners, like off of Moore Street or something like that. If the manager wants to.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through to the council. Council is quality of life issues.
Yeah.
Really was what I was going after.
Yeah, so I agree.
From the 10 p.m. So if that's something that the council obviously feels strongly about going back to another time, that's obviously 100% appropriate. But it's that quality of life issue that we continue to look after from the complaints that we receive from different sections of the city. This is not necessarily true in every section of the city, but it's very true in others.
So I guess what I'm saying is, even if you change that time to 8 o'clock, it would have zero effect on writing tickets for people on corners. Because if we're going out to corners after 8 o'clock, why does it have to be a time frame? We can go at 2 in the morning and write the tickets without having ordinances because they're parking too close to a corner. So that's just my definition of when we start pulling and pushing and we see why the policy is put there, and I'm looking at it, we don't really need a time frame to write a ticket for someone parked too close to the corner, in my opinion. But maybe I'm wrong, and maybe that offset is there. But and again, when we look at the pass cards and we have to call an attendant to use the pass card to get people out of the garages, does that go to a computer system and tell us how many times somebody does it at each garage and what time it's done at?
Not in the old garages with the old equipment, but as the new equipment comes online, yes, we'll be able to better track that, and we'll also have an intercom system with a tied-in phone alert with cameras so that we can see the person in the car, elevate the gate, and let the person out.
How many garages currently is that active in?
We have the new equipment in 2 garages.
Which 2?
Lowell Locks and Early.
Okay, so what is the time frame for the new ones to be put in? Because then we can track everything and see when something's broken rather than have to...
Right. We have to get internet installed into the the Roy garage. We're doing some cabling work, so I hope within a month or 2 we get that settled. We have the equipment to put in. We just haven't put it in because we need the connection. And then that's it for now. And we're planning on renovating the Ayotte garage and the Downs garage this summer. So when that's done, I'll put new equipment in, hopefully in those 2 garages after the renovation.
When I just look at the whole platform, I just look at, okay, we just based a structure off of a time frame going to 10 o'clock. So that means that all of the structure is built off of that. And I'm just saying that, okay, can we redesign this so that it comes back and says, okay, here's the actual, and here's actually, because tonight I think we all just realized something totally different. And Mr. Manager, I agree with you that, public safety corners and everything should be those hours. But I don't know that we have to define them within an ordinance of a downtown piece where people are trying to go out to eat or something. So after 6 o'clock, why can't we just send them to the neighborhoods? Because at 6 o'clock, one shift's gone. The other shift is here for the next 4 hours. Why can't they go to the neighborhoods? I just drove down Rock Street. For the last month, I've been driving down Rock Street, and the same Dodge Ram truck is parked on top of the fire hydrant without license plates on it, on the sidewalk. And to me, I think we have people who drive around the city, and that should be one of the things they look at. But again, if we had this in place, I think there's plenty of work from 6 to 10 o'clock to fulfill all needs of this department in tickets that can actually gain more revenue in the neighborhoods than it would downtown. So I think that the appropriate thing would be, okay, go to 6 o'clock, and then after that, you guys need to patrol neighborhoods and start writing your tickets that you need to write. And I think we can gain more revenue than we can downtown, because once people get into use that you're going to actually ticket down there, I think you're going to see your revenue go down, not up. You'll see it in the meter go up, but your ticket revenue will go down, which that's where your funds are, is in the ticket revenue more so than the small amounts that get put in. I do think that this is an interesting subject that we should dive into a little bit deeper and start supporting downtowns. And there is an offset in the cost, I outlined when I looked at it. If you're using an employee in a neighborhood and not on the enterprise fund areas that I outlined, then that should be a money grab that goes back to the enterprise fund and keeps those rates lower. And that's just my opinion. And I thank you for all your hard work, because I didn't know any of this, Commissioner Ryan. I didn't have a clue on any. When we went through the finance department, finance board, how many times, and every time we hear a resident speak or we hear the manager speak, there's another thing that comes up that pushes this further and further away from. And I look at the CFO, who's put a ton of work into this, and I just feel awful that these are outliers that we don't actually see when we're trying to make these policies. Thank you.
Councilor Dakota?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Gitchia took a lot of my thunder here, but there's no way I would enforce parking for our downtown businesses after 6 o'clock. They're still trying to recover from the pandemic at this point, and we want to institute till 10 o'clock. I agree with the neighborhoods, and I agree with Councilor Gitchia. Also, I agree with Councilor Janess that I think we'll go with a July 1st CPI on a one-time increase rather than both those increases. But my question is through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CFO. Mr. Baldwin, I'm looking through the forecast. And after this year, from 2025 to 2029, there's some huge deficits there. Can you explain to me how those deficits are going to disappear? Or, I mean, by 2029, we're looking at $12 million in deficits.
Mr. CFO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor, I think you may be looking at maybe one of the older forecasts from the budget book. The one we've updated for the Finance Subcommittee in August is showing...
Was that the only one that didn't get it?
It says a substantial deficit, nonetheless.
There is.
And, you know, the fee proposal was one way to enhance revenue in the enterprise, as well as additional enforcement. But it is a fact that in several years, without a fee increase or without additional revenue sources, that the debt service from the garages, namely the Hamilton Canal, will require some kind of annual subsidy from the general fund.
Are we going to be coming back here every year and telling these people here that everything's going up again and again and again and again? Or I'm just, like you just said, these are huge deficits that we're looking at from 27, 28, and 29. I don't have an answer myself. I was hoping maybe city manager, maybe. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the Council. Council, the uncomfortable conversation was the first conversation that we had, and that conversation was that the individual pass card rate needed to be $150. Okay. And this council and this, we've always talked about pushing and pulling and trying to make something work here. The administration went back, instituted dynamic pricing, instituted what I'll say is the quality of life issues, and you're right, Council, the corners and things of that nature. We've looked at a whole host of things about placards that Mr. Ryan knows more about placards, and I've learned more about that in the past few months. That they were once they were given, they weren't tracked. So all the placards in the neighborhoods would now be tracked. There's a lot of uncomfortableness going on in some of what I once again want to say the tighter neighborhoods But it's the people in the tighter neighborhoods that are coming to the council, and as well as coming directly to the administration to say that we can't park anyplace. We have a city that was obviously built not with 4 vehicles in mind per household or 3 vehicles in mind per household. So to answer your question, Councilor, I can't say this would be the last one because if the enterprise account is supposed to live and breathe on its own, that is not happening at this time, nor is it happening with what we're currently proposing. However, with some of the new rules, and that I know everyone has gone through and read, and the idea once again was to go to that 10 o'clock. All of this is very flexible to the council's request, obviously. So, just to answer your question, sir, no, this probably will not be the last time, unless what we are proposing, and Mr. Ryan has come up with many different ideas. At one point in time, we were not charging an event rate. We weren't charging it at all. Now we are. We do have event rates. And just to give you an idea on the event rate, take a MRT or take the LMA or take the Songus Arena, people were paying nothing to park on the street. And quite frankly, the way I look at it is I would pay double the amount in than it being in a garage. That's me personally, I would, because you can get in and get out. And Mr. Ryan has been moving this around, and I believe it's $15, and everything was full on the exterior of where we were receiving no revenue at all. People paid to park on the street, so when they decided to leave, they didn't have to obviously wait in the garage, and I believe the garage was maybe $10 or maybe $15. Right. So they gave the $5 up. We're trying to stay affordable where we can, councilors, and put in the high demand zone, the high demand pricing, which that high demand pricing very much can fluctuate depending on what's going on throughout the city. Not an easy thing to thread, a needle to thread, but we'll take any and all of this information back and see what needs to be done per the council's request.
I appreciate your candor.
Councilor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you for all of the work that's gone into this to our parking director. We have had numerous finance subcommittee meetings on this. There was a lot of push and pull, a lot of residents that came forward. We listened to them. We brought back some senior discounts that had been eliminated, some ages. We brought the age back down to 62, grandfathered in for the parking. We did a lot of work on this. I will say the 10 p.m. Was not part of the discussion that I remember during the finance subcommittee meeting at all. So I would like to see some more information, I guess, as far as I think there's a little disconnect on how that ties in with the neighborhood enforcement that you're trying to do. I'm not sure why you can't have one, an 8 p.m. downtown and a 10 p.m. in the neighborhoods.
That would be my preference, to have we currently have 6 p.m. downtown, 10 o'clock in the neighborhoods. So I'd like to keep the 10 o'clock because the 10 o'clock in the neighborhoods just helps the neighbors with people coming in for parties and things like that. Nobody can park without a sticker until after 10. That's a good thing. And then it's up to the committee, their decision for downtown.
Can you move it to 8 in the neighborhoods? Is this the residential sticker parking that you're
Then
talking
I think
about?
I think we'd get some feedback from the neighborhoods that people are parking their cars now at 8:30 at their house where it used to be later at night. I think that might be a problem. I think what I have to do is enforce it up until 10.
Okay, so maybe we need staggered staffing that isn't, only enforcing the neighborhoods, not enforcing downtown.
Yes.
So it's something we certainly need to have another discussion about. My other thing that I'd just like to bring up, I know Mr. Jacobson brought up, he said during the day hours may be slower than in the evening downtown. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but where we're going with the high demand, moderate, and lesser use, are they sophisticated enough to do it by time? I mean, or is this just like you're only changing them every so many months?
It's going to be me changing the rates on the meters with an Excel spreadsheet looking at the data for the past 3 months on a rolling average, and then updating it as needed.
In what frequency of time, I'm saying?
It says, I think it says, I'll probably do it on a month, start off at a month and see how that progresses.
And are they time sensitive, I'm saying? Are there, like, if half the day is quiet in downtown, are you able to do one rate then with the different rate at a different time? Or?
I can't change the rates that quickly. So I'll have to see how quickly I can change the rates. It probably, at least on a minimum, I can do it on a monthly basis. If I
But I'm saying by time, can you do it? Like half the day is one rate and half the day, like, does it allow for multiple tiers within the same day?
Probably, I just will have to figure that out.
Okay.
But I was looking at basically a street, 85% occupied would be one rate, under 85 to 15 would be the middle rate, and lower than 15% usage would be the lowest rate.
Okay. I'm just saying if the capability's there and that meets the needs, then we can look at it.
Probably is there, but I'll have to work on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there a motion on the floor to refer us back to the manager?
Yes,
By
so
Councilor
moved.
Mercia, second by Councilor Robinson. All those in favor, say aye. Councilor Mercia?
Could I just ask one question? Because it could be me, you know, I'm a little bit stubborn and I really can't get it, but let me run this by you. I understand public safety, and I understand that a truck, a flatbed parked on the corner, or even a car on the corner of a street is very dangerous. It's a public safety issue. I understand that. But how does a pocket meter raised to be charged to 10 o'clock at night have any significance with that truck parking on a corner? Number one, we have an ordinance that says no parking here to corner 20 feet. How does that tie into a 10 o'clock parking fee? I don't get the correlation here. I don't understand that.
Okay.
Can you explain that? Because isn't it?
No, the 20 feet to corner should be done 24 hours a day.
Right.
7 days a week by my people and also by LPD, and they absolutely do that.
So why are we talking about that in
it's just one of the items that we would find at 10 o'clock at night up in the residential areas, because people will come home and they will park wherever they can find a spot, and we will find a lot of those.
That's not justifying
No.
the 10 o'clock charge.
The 10 o'clock is just keeping the ordinance that we have in place for the residential zones. Currently, it says 10 o'clock. The current ordinance for residential parking neighborhoods says 10 o'clock.
But I think we did the right thing to refer it back.
Motion on the floor to refer it back was seconded.
Thank you.
Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mayor Rourke.
Yes.
Councilor Scott.
Yes.
Councilor Yem.
Yes.
Councilor Chow.
Yes.
Councilor Dakota.
Yes.
Councilor Getchia.
Yes.
Councilor Janess.
Yes.
Councilor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Noon.
Yes.
Councilor Robinson.
Yes.
11 years.
Hopefully, the next subcommittee on this is well publicized. We have a discussion at the subcommittee instead of at the council meeting. I appreciate all the comments. I think they did the right call by sending it back. 4.2 ordinance, amend fee schedule, residential parking signs.
Mr. Mayor?
Reading. Ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 150 thereof entitled Fees by amending certain sections. Start the hearing by all those in favor. All those in favor? Hearing none. All those in opposition? All those in opposition? Hearing none. Portion of the meeting is closed. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. I might be off here, but if the parking director is looking for enforcement in the neighborhoods till 10 p.m., say, and we're looking, which we desperately need, to increase the fees for parking placards in the neighborhood, I think that's going to be a heavy focus that's going to have to go along with that increase in fees for the parking placards in the neighborhoods, as it was described, where people are showing up, parking in front of your house. Hey, I just got charged $180 or $120 for this placard, and my neighbor keeps parking, and no one's enforcing it. So I think this might have to get referred back as well, and kind of be joined with the previous that just got sent over, because I think it kind of goes hand in hand. If we're looking to increase parking placards, which I desperately agree with, I think we need to do. We've discussed that many times for quite some time. I do think the enforcement component has to be right there with it too. And if he's looking to kind of fund additional enforcement opportunities with the first piece that we already referred back, so I say let's join these at the hip and bring them back so we can make an informed decision. Thank you.
Councilor Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the other area that I'd like to highlight that, again, was not discussed during the subcommittee was the renewal fee for the placards for $180, which I find to be excessive. I don't think there should be a different rate whether you have a driveway or you don't have a driveway. I mean, that's a choice people make when they purchase their properties. The other issue I have is that it's a discount for age 70 and older, and I think it should be in line with the parking garages, which is 65 and older. Thank you.
Councilor Noon?
I do concur with regard to the residential parking fee or sign. Since you sent the amend parking rate to to be looked at by the subcommittee or by the administration, I think you should do the same here. And I think it's true is that from what I heard, Councilor Scott mentioned that you have renewal fee. This should have been discussed at the finance subcommittee, and the finance subcommittee said, the chair of the finance subcommittee said, it was not discussed then. And how did it appear in the residential parking sign? So please send this to the, to subcommittee and or the administration to look into it and, making sure those are correctly addressed. Thank you.
Councilor Getchia?
I may be wrong and my memory serves me. I think it was discussed that the total number up to 180 was, and we were at 120 and then we were moving around on the signs and stuff. But the sign stuff was discussed. The amounts, I think, may be the thing that's up. Yeah. But we did discuss the signs increase and all that stuff, and the number adjustment was up. And I would agree with Councilor Robinson and Councilor Scott that, when you look at it, if you're going to pay that kind of money, then someone should get a real ticket, not the amount that's there. It should be a sizable amount to say, hey, you know what? We mean business. So I think that needs the adjustment, but I do think that Councilor Scott's right about the amount. The high number may not have been that number, but I know it was 120, I thought. But yeah, I would agree with send it back at the same time because I don't think one's going to offset the other by that much. Thank you.
Is there a motion on the floor? Is there a motion on the floor? By Councilor Getchia to send it back?
Second.
Yes. Second by Councilor Robinson. Councilor Leahy?
Thank you. One question through you to the parking director. If I can ask you a quick question. With the placards, the signs, I didn't attend the subcommittee. Was it brought up, any discussion about the people that buy the placards because, and they have a driveway and they put it 20 feet away from their house because they don't want anybody parking in front of their house?
We didn't get into the specifics of that because the rules of the signs, reserved dwelling signs did not change. We didn't change the dimensions or locations. Those are pretty clearly spelled out in the ordinance. Has to be 20 feet, positioned in a place that gives maximum parking for other people. So you can't just plop it in the middle and cut off the ends that could provide an extra spot. You got to kind of move it to the left or the right and have it in a place that provides other space.
All right, thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Send it back. Section 5.1, Boston Gas, DBA National Grid, request installation of geothermal heat exchange along Broadway, Wilder, Walker, and Wall Streets, the service for UMass Lowell.
Yeah, that's good. Open in favor.
Open in favor. All those in favor? You here to speak in favor?
We're in favor, yes.
Do you want to speak on it? You want to just stand there? Name
My apologies, having a hard time hearing.
Yeah.
My name is Curtis Davis. I'm here on behalf of National Grid. So this is part of our geothermal pilot project that we're conducting in the city along with UMass Lowell as well as Lowell Housing Authority and other residential customers. The construction is slated to start in April and towards the start of the heating season in November. The main part of the construction should be ending around August. We're here with our project engineer, Aaron Pike, and project manager, Chris English, for any questions that you may have.
Awesome. Anybody else wish to speak in favor? In favor? The portion of the hearing is closed. Anybody in opposition? All those in opposition? The section of the meeting is closed. Comments by the councilors. Councilor Gitcha?
Move approval.
Move approval by Councilor Gitcha, second by Councilor Mercia.
Move to refer to.
Move to refer to the wire inspector for report and recommendation. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Returning back to city council motions, 6.3 by Councilor Gitcha, request city manager look into appointing a student from Lowell High School to the Lowell High School Building Committee. Seconded by Councilor Noon. Councilor Gitcha.
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. I just believe this has a lot of value, not only for the city and the committee to hear from a student who's actually in the building, but also to give somebody experience of being on one of these boards. So that's the reason why I put it forward. Thank you.
Any other comments? That student will probably have his doctorate before the project's done, right, Councilor Gitcha? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. 6.4. Councilor Gitcha requests city manager report on the possibility of developing a grant program for owner-occupied 2, 3, and 4-family homes that require owner occupancy for a period of 10 years. Seconded by Councilor Robertson. Councilor Gitcha.
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. Again, I think owner-occupied 2, 3 families have a lot of value to a community, and I just think that the owner-occupied takes a different type of pride for the most part. I'm not saying that landlords who don't live in them are absentee, but I think there's a certain type of pride that goes with that property, and I think it would be a good investment for the city to look into giving a some kind of period that would develop the grant for that. Thank you.
Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. I'd like to thank my colleague for bringing this forward. I believe even going through first-time home buyer or a lot of these programs, there's only certain mortgage products that you'd qualify for if you're owner-occupied. So I think there is potential to do something with this. Thank you.
Councilor Yam.
Oh, just a quick question regarding the grants. Is that part of the first-time home buyers program that you have to attend, and then you graduate, and then when you buy a 2-family or 3-family, you'll receive this grant? And what kind of grant and how much amount we talking about? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, it clearly states that you'd have to live in there for 10 years, so you wouldn't be a first-time home buyer at that point. So it's a grant, it's an offset of taxes based from the city, and that's what we're sending it to the manager for, so that he could come back and see what type of other communities do this and see what the amounts would be. So this is just exploratory. Answer a motion back, and then we could go from there.
Thank you. Councilor Scott.
Thank you. So I'm just a little confused over the wording as well. So a grant program I didn't take as a tax break. I do absolutely support the idea of encouraging owner occupancy in our multifamily homes. I think it helps all of our neighborhoods. I'm not sure as far as giving a tax break, to a multifamily home that may be an investment property versus, even if you live in it, versus, a single family home. I would support any type of grant programming we could have with funds for first-time home buyers that purchase multifamily and agree to live in them. So I just don't think I would support a tax break if that's the idea for this. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, first of all, the motion is outstanding. I think what we want is to have home buyers living in multifamilies. Any options, Mr. Manager, I look forward to looking at, and then we can take a vote if need be. But I actually think it's an excellent motion. So anybody else? Councilor Leahy?
Thank you. Through you, the manager or whoever, do we still have the 2-for-2 program that Mayor Martin brought up years ago?
We can get back to you on that one. Is that cool?
All right. And if we don't, can we find out why we don't? So if we do this program, let's not have it fade out in 5 years. So, all right. Thank you.
Councilor Janess?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Interested to see what we can do here, anything we can do to encourage home ownership, encourage owner-occupied properties in the city. I think is great. We've had an absentee landlord problem in this city with a lot of properties. So if we can address that, that's great. I am just a little surprised about the tenor of the discussion, just in contrast to the ADU discussion we had fairly recently, where an idea was floated about giving single-family homeowners a grant or a tax break for creating an ADU and renting it out on an affordable basis. There's no affordability requirement here in this motion, and yet everybody's in favor of it. I just think it's interesting, but looking forward to see what the manager has to say.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 6.7, Council Noon, Council Janice requests city manager work with power department to identify either existing or new locations for cooling/warming center that will open during periods of extreme cold or heat.
There
No
are,
second is needed. Mr. Clerk.
there are registered speakers. Elizabeth Pellerito.
Thank you. My name is Elizabeth Pellerito. I live on Aiken Street and work in the city. So the Massachusetts Bureau of Climate and Environmental Health identifies the impact that extreme weather events, including winter storms and extreme heat, have on the health of individuals and on safety. And those most at risk, we know, include the unhoused, but also individuals over the age of 65, especially the elderly who live alone, folks with disabilities, children under 5, and individuals who earn below the median income. And we know that almost 90% of Lowell lives in an environmental justice zone, as identified by the state. So warming and cooling centers are a key public resource both for the unhoused and for those who are rent burdened and may not be able to afford utility rates as they increase. More than a third of the city is currently rent burdened. And the following, I'm going to read some key recommendations from the state of Massachusetts to cities as they establish warming and cooling centers. And we hope that the city will take that responsibility and the recommendations from the state seriously. So one, warming and cooling centers should be heated or air-conditioned buildings that are ADA accessible to the public with backup generators. They should have adequate bathroom facilities, access to clean drinking water. They should provide power stations for charging devices, activities for families, prepackaged snacks and drinks, face masks, hand sanitizer. They should have provisions for pets, transportation for those who need it, private space for nursing mothers and families who want to remain together, and seating for everyone. It's not enough to just host a warming and cooling center and hope that people show up. Information about centers, and again, this is a state recommendation, should be publicized via robocalls, text messages, local TV, community-based organizations, including houses of worship. The information should be made available in multiple language and proofread for readability and errors. Cities should create a plan with a health equity focus that reflects the diverse need of individuals, populations, and communities, especially those who are most vulnerable. And this means evaluating data, identifying barriers to usage, and problem solving to make sure that those who are in need of these services are able to access them, which also includes coordinating transportation and making sure that individuals all across the city can access these sites. It seems that in the past year, there's been a de facto change in policy and practice in Lowell, and warming centers have been phased out this winter during the current administration without any public discussion or input. And we want to call on the council and on the city manager to follow those state recommendations and best practices and restore those services without delay. Thank you.
Charlotte Renault Karagianis.
Good evening. My name is Charlotte Renault Karagianis. I live on Beach Street in Centerville. I'm here to echo everything that my comrade Elizabeth just brought up, that this is a matter of health and safety, and a fair amount of research has been done on this matter, and we have guidance from the state on this matter already. We need warming and cooling centers in multiple locations throughout the city with maximum accessibility. What was already brought up was safety of these spaces, cultural competency, which we can see through notices about these spaces being broadcast far and wide in multiple languages, the abilities to stay with loved ones, that means pets and partners and family. These centers increase community safety, which has been brought up a number of times throughout this meeting tonight, by protecting our unhoused neighbors, as well as people who cannot pay their heating and cooling bills. It's already been brought up that a third of Lowellians are rent burdened during times when we see rent prices going up and up and up, along with food prices, gas prices. We all know it. The need will not only increase as weather events get more extreme, and our unhoused neighbors need our dedication now more than ever. On the Lowell City website, the words on our seal are invoked. Art is the handmaid of human good, which means that skill walks hand in hand with the good of the people. Everybody in this chamber was either elected by or sought out employment from people under the guise that you have skills around leadership and around community care. We ask that you use those skills. We ask that you see yourselves as artists. You are artists, as leadership itself is an art form. So think of what it says on our seal. If art is the handmaid of human good, and what that means is that we use skills for the good of the people, what skills are you using when our unhoused neighbors don't have a warm place to go when it's cold or a cool place to go when it's warm? And it's not just about comfort, it's about safety. I also choose to invoke the words of Toni Morrison, whose birthday just passed. You will be in positions that matter, positions in which you can decide the nature and quality of other people's lives. Your errors may be irrevocable. So when you enter those places of trust or power, dream a little before you think. So your thoughts, your solutions, your directions, your choices about whose lives matter and whose don't, about who flourishes and who doesn't, will be worthy of the very sacred life you have chosen to live. You are not helpless. You are not heartless. And you have time. I implore you to find the money that we need, which exists. There are individuals, there are organizations, there are funders who have the money that we would need to create the warming and cooling centers that our neighbors
Ma'am, your 3 minutes is up. Can you please wrap it up?
need. Thank you so much. Yeah, let's do this.
Daniel Bazarian.
Hi, my name is Daniel Bazarian. I'm a resident living in Centerville, as well as a proudly unionized worker here in Lowell. And I'm here tonight in my capacity as a community member to speak in support of this motion, as well as to direct the council's attention to some protocols that are in place in other cities that could serve as a basis for a policy here in Lowell. I'll just preface this by saying that I'm not a policy expert or a caseworker, but speaking as a renter, I am somebody who recognizes that having policies like this in place will only become more vital as the cost of rent and living becomes increasingly difficult for many members of our community to meet. As we work to find solutions to that larger scale issue, there are going to need to be steps taken to protect our neighbors who are already or are going to become unhoused. So to take the largest example first, New York City, the Department of Homeless Services has 2 protocols in place, codes red and blue, for instances of extreme heat and cold. To quote from the New York DHS Street Outreach webpage, quote, "A cold blue weather emergency notice is issued when the temperature drops to 32 degrees Fahrenheit or less between 4 p.m. and 8 a.m., including National Weather Service calculations for wind chill values. No one who's homeless and seeking shelter in New York City during a code blue will be denied. Shelter is available system-wide to accommodate anybody who's reasonably believed to be homeless and is brought to a shelter, and accommodations are also available for walk-ins." Close quote. A little closer to home, Cambridge has a winter warming center in the basement of their senior center building. Quoting again from the Cambridge City website, "The winter warming center is a welcoming and safe drop-in center where unsheltered adults can spend the night and be safe from the environmental hazards of the street during the winter months. For the 2023 to 24 season, the Winter Warming Center will be available 7 days a week from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. In addition to a safe space, adults experiencing homelessness will be able to access beverages and a meal, bathrooms, and the ability to rest on a yoga mat on the floor." Close quote. There's a frequently asked questions section on that webpage asking why Cambridge elected to open the site, and the city states there, "Our community identified the need for additional resources for adult individuals in Cambridge who are not able to stay in conventional shelters due to personal circumstances or mental health conditions. These individuals sleep outdoors by default and are subject to hazardous conditions, especially during the winter months. The objective is to provide a welcoming, low-threshold indoor overnight service that will provide food, a safe place to rest, and protection from inclement weather." I had another example from Framingham of a cooling station during the summer, but I'm going to move past that for reasons of time. So certainly Lowell has different constraints than the other cities that I've mentioned here, but I think we also have different allowances and opportunities to take advantage of. And I think that the examples that I've cited share a couple of similarities. The third one has this too, just trust me on it, that we can start with for the policy here in Lowell. Firstly, that they all include specific temperature triggers during which the expanded resources will be available.
Sir, please wrap your 3 minutes. Can you wrap it up, please?
Yes, yeah. They offer locations where residents can spend the night so they're not outside overnight, and they are low threshold so that people who can't access the conventional shelter system are able to have access to them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Paul Gaudette via Zoom.
Good evening, and hello, everybody. My name is Paul Gaudette. I live in the Highlands section of Lowell at 4 Bertram Street. I am the board president of Merrimack Valley Project, which is a coalition of faith communities, labor unions, and community groups working for structural change and social justice in Lowell and throughout the Merrimack Valley. A few years back, I was on a guided walk with tourists in the city of Amsterdam. A large brick building was indicated to us where some Dutch folks, presumably because of some disability or other, lived with very affordable rents. One tourist asked our guide, "Does Amsterdam have a homeless population?" Expressing a shocked look, our tour guide's response was, "Of course not. We're a civilized people." The motion before us and the action called for represents a very low threshold indeed. It asks that as a city, we provide basic protection from the harms to life and health caused by extremes of temperature. In our experience, if we're honest, we all know the terrible vulnerability we have to the cold. Just remember the last time you rushed indoors for protection from strong winter winds blasting in sub-freezing weather. In our bones, we know the danger. So we responsibly shelter our pets, our farm animals, and even our plants from the cold. We know the right thing to do for our sisters and brothers who are unhoused. But somehow, we let our differences block our natural compassion. As a city, we have to make provisions for all who live here and arrive here in need. Tonight's motion is only a first step, but maybe we can work towards other steps towards being a civilized people. Thank you.
Councilor Noon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank all the speakers and those who wrote to us as a council. Appreciate them, but also appreciate the cities as well. The city has been actively working with our partner to house the unhoused. I also see the opportunity when I put these motions, the opportunity to do more. And that's why I asked the managers and his team to identify either existing location and or new location for the cooling and warming center. While we at it looking for the location, it's not on the motion, but council managers is also looking, should use this opportunity as to identify, while he's identifying location or new one or existing one, looking at developing a protocol, working with our partners, because I know that we have the homeless task force meeting with our partner who's expert around this area, CTI, Low Transitional Housing Centers, and Elliott Church, and so on and so forth. Those group, and maybe as well the input from the public as to how we should have, or what kind of protocol outline we should have, so that when we have identified the location, we have this protocol in place and have it so that the public can see that we are here to do what we can with our partner to help our community, especially the unhoused population. Thank you.
Councilor Janess?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We thank Councilor Noon for calling me and asking to join on this motion. And I'd like to thank all the speakers who came down and spoke on this need. I think it's very important that we have a clear policy in place that says when we open and close a warming or cooling shelter, that's easily accessible to all. The policy itself, I mean, the shelter should be accessible as well. And I know that our existing use of the senior center has impacted their ability to do their programming on occasion. And, the seniors need that space as well. So figuring a way that we can all work together, be able to make sure that these resources are available when they're needed. And, it can provide a nice centralized location where the unhoused folks can meet with and speak to representatives from whether it's CTI or LTLC or any of the other organizations that help this population. It might be a nice outreach opportunity there as well, just to make those connections. So if we can include them and see, maybe they can help staff it, maybe they can help get the word out with whatever the policy and the location we select is, I think that would be good. Really just looking to make sure we can have a concrete plan as we move forward. And I appreciate your efforts on this, and I appreciate the work of the health department in this area. I know that they've worked hard on this in the past and partnered with the senior shelter to do it. So I'm looking forward to figuring out how we can formalize it and hopefully expand it a little bit. Thank you.
Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very, very passionate speakers. Made me almost cry because I do see when I go to work at the South Common, there are people sleeping out there in the cold with the top over them. I'm even cold in the house and they're sleeping outside. Something really has to be done. This is a very powerful motion, whether people realize it or not. When I think of the speakers and what they said and the situation that we have in the city, I think of the words in the Bible where Jesus said, "What you do to the least of them, you do also to me." And so for that reason alone, we need to do something. To do nothing is just too easy. I know it's a challenge. I know it's going to be tough, but even if we had to get a tent, such as a tent like we went to the Winterfest, and put it somewhere, I will say, as Councilor Gitchia said on the radio this morning, it was warmer in that tent than the Senior Citizen Center over on Broadway. So they can warm something like that up. That'd be beautiful for people to be outside. See, we don't probably realize it because we're not there, but it's true. You get out of the house and you're rushing to get back in because it's so bitter cold. And we probably take things for granted because we don't experience it. But I know one of the speakers almost cried. I could feel it. I could feel the passion, and I think they did a wonderful job and showed the need that this has to be done. Thank you.
Councilor Gitchia, Leahy, then Robinson. Councilor Gitchia.
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. I do believe that this committee and the last committee and the management team has worked hard on this. I think as we really focus on things and we talk about Cambridge, well, Cambridge has a lottery for beds down there at Harvard Square, their homeless shelter. But when we start thinking about it, we reached out to 24 communities and tried to have a summit over at UMass Lowell, and hardly anybody showed up from the other communities. We have all the social services. Why are we not in the other communities asking them, hey, can you help out? We're not. UMass Lowell kicked them off for down there, and then now we got people up here who are, here we go again. In warming tents, I would agree with Councilor Mercier, but there's a problem there. If you went down to the Winterfest, you would have seen 2 firefighters underneath that tent at all times, because you need a detail when you put sides down and you start warming inside space like that, or you have to have fire suppression systems built in them. So that's what the problem comes with just a temporary site like that. So there's a lot of challenges that have gone on, but even down at the shelter, we had open space last time. At least that's what we were told here. We had 14 open beds down there. And we were told the same thing about another spot, CTI's housing, that they had open beds in space. I don't know how we force people into this. And I do agree that you have to have reasonable places for them. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. But how do we get to them and actually help them on the mental health end? How do we help people who are now don't want to be helped? And I agree with the speakers. It's cold, it's this. I agree. And you know, none of us are inhumane. We tried to put together a whole platform that we could get help from people. And, you know, we did take on, this city has taken on more social service than the 24 communities that have sent anything to us. And now we get nothing in the backside to say, hey, we need more space. Well, we don't have space right now. Maybe if we tear down the building across the street, we can build something like that. I don't know. But at the end of the day, people aren't asking for the help. We go down there if the, you know, again, we just relying on the information that we get, that they go down, they ask, and no one is takers. So I don't know what other avenue we can take. I do agree that there should be a policy together when warming and cooling stations should be applied, because I thought we used the senior center at one time when it got really hot last year. We were doing stuff like that, and then on the backside. But I don't know how we solve a problem that starts in our schools, ends up all the way through with our government and mental health and everything in between, and now people don't want to come in, even though there are many resources out there. I wonder, through the manager, are there grants that are given to residents in the city to help them with heating assistance and stuff like that?
Mr. Manager?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through to the council. Yes, CTI does administer that, grants for heat.
Could we ask how many people apply and how many awarded that? Because I remember back in the 90s when I worked at the water department, we went to a house that the water service was frozen. We went in, there was an elderly lady in her kitchen heating by her stove, and the water service had frozen. And Joe for Oil came out and gave her oil and got her back up and running. But are there people that are in real need that now are pushed to that extreme? And I just wonder what that number is. And if people do apply, how many are not offered the grant funding or assistance that can be there?
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to the council. Council, the CTI is the main contributor to that, whether it be through the RAFT program, the heating program, housing programs, and not that other organizations don't do their part as well. But if through the years that I've been doing this, and I know that many councilors have done this as well, when people do call with an issue or a challenge paying a bill, they go to CTI. And there are other organizations, I'll be very, very clear, there are definitely I can think of 3 off the top of my head that will give money towards heat for people during the summer months. It's also through National Grid that they cannot shut people off during that time frame, during the heating season. So that also happens. Here in the city, we also have an opportunity that if somebody were living in a house and their system went down, through the Assistant City Manager's office, we can help them if they're income eligible. So there are these opportunities that we have from the city's perspective. The city is also, obviously, and the council knows this, moving forward with creating Summer Street, which is going to be housing, permanent housing. To say that the city's not doing anything is just wrong. We've talked about Summer Street for some time. CTI has been doing that work. We've talked about standing up a women's shelter, which should be coming to the council relatively soon. And there are other discussions still going on in regards to homelessness and in regards to taking care of individual homelessness. The other misnomer is that continues to be said is we have a low barrier shelter. Many people don't know that, but we do. We have a low barrier shelter, meaning that anybody can get into that shelter. So I would say that this administration, and more importantly, this council, has probably done more from this perspective when it comes to trying to house people and trying to start ideas to try to solve this issue. But we don't do it alone. We do it with the Lowell Transitional Living Center. We do it with CTI. CBA has been a partner of ours in the past as well. But this is an issue that is extremely difficult. I think it's a great opportunity to continue to bring it forward. I think there's a great opportunity that I know that the team has just been writing down some of the comments from the councilors here as to who we will be reaching out again to tomorrow to find out who can help. But let's remember, this council has put together a housing, we called for the housing crisis, and the city of Lowell is the only one that showed up. That does not mean that other towns aren't doing things. I must say that the town of Chelmsford does an awful lot. I do know that, having represented out there. But this is an issue that is not just in this Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but it's nationwide. But to characterize the city of Lowell as not doing enough, I would have to push back, and I'm going to push back strongly on that, given the fact of what has been happening. And it's because this council has made it a priority that we continue to move forward.
Councilor Robinson?
Can I just finish?
Councilor Kitcheff?
I'm sorry. I just wonder if the administration has been reached out by, and the speakers eloquently came up and said, you know, this is a problem, but I haven't heard of anybody who has that problem. And I asked colleagues about it, have you been reached out to by anybody from any group saying that a person has this issue, and have you helped out? And they said they have helped out. So I think, but they don't know the outcome because you don't want to pry that deep into people's personal lives. But I've received them, and when I reached out, I was successful at helping someone who had a child in a car, and they were living in a car, and then we got her housing and got that started through one of the churches. So I do think that reaching out is probably the first step to somebody that you're in need and you want something. And we do go out to these places. So for anybody to stand up here, at least in my opinion, I mean, Mayor Rourke, you've been has anybody really reached out and said, okay, we need this, and us not reach out to the administration? And I think that we have beds open, and we'll continue to do that. So I think it's unfair when they say that this administration has phased out policies over the last year, and maybe they've made changes that could be highlighted or not, but I don't know the effects because I can't see a real person. Thank you.
Councilor Robinson?
Thank you. I think this motion, and what the speakers are requesting, I think it's a multi-part ask. I think to establish the policy surrounding what would trigger the activation of you know, the use of a heating or cooling station, I think that's the low-hanging fruit here. I think that's pretty easy to do. Other communities already established it. The big question, and the elephant in the room, which has been right along, where and how? Because the cost associated, I mean, as we all know, there's not much space. We struggle to find classroom space. Like we don't have a surplus of extra buildings that we could just, at the drop of a dime, the weather's going to trigger this policy, and now we have to set it up. Again, the senior center is a perfect example. When we've had whatever the existing policy used to be, we have a snap of cold days, frigid days. We open it up for a heating station. We staff it and everything. You find, if you're lucky, 3 or 4 people stopped in throughout the night.
Council, that's a good question. I'll ask the manager that same question. Mr. Manager, how many people go to the senior center when you open it up for heat or cold?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through to the council. Council is, when we first started doing it, well, let me put it this way. When we ran it the way LTLC runs their organization, we saw between 3 to 8 people, maybe 10, because there were rules and regulations that everybody was used to. When we didn't follow the regulations in the beginning, we probably had 20 to 25, but we also experienced a number of challenges that I think that doesn't need to be mentioned at this time. But when the rules and regulations were followed, similar to the Lowell Transitional Living Center, apologies, the LTLC or SMOC or the shelter, easily under 10 at all times.
Thank you for that. And see, from an organizational standpoint, that raises a valid concern. If we're utilizing space that's being used in other capacities, say throughout the day, because a lot of the Boston ones that I mentioned, they open at 4 or 5 p.m. and they run through the night, or they open at 7 p.m., they run through the night, and then it's back to whatever the initial business was in that facility. From an organizational standpoint, we drop it and turn it into a low barrier warming station from 7 p.m. till 7 a.m. There are challenges that come along with that low barrier, situation. And that's where we struggle. It's almost like we don't have an additional shelter. So to repurpose or use space that's not utilized during a certain set of hours, that's where we're struggling. And hopefully your team will come back with something possible, or maybe one of our neighbors in the surrounding communities is willing to work with us and has a space that's unoccupied, doesn't have an ulterior purpose, and that we could utilize if it triggers, whatever the policy it triggers, we provide transportation or something along those lines. But I think this is one we definitely, and if the maker of the motion doesn't mind to amend it, can we include reaching out to surrounding neighborhood communities on this one and see, could they help with a warming or cooling? Not as much, I don't think, because technically when it's that warm, we have the A-frames. I've seen those set up in areas for people to cool off. I mean, there are easier alternatives. But when you're talking warming stations in the winter, especially low barrier, I think we need to include surrounding communities and see if they're willing to help us with this. Thank you.
Councilor Leahy? All set. Any other comments? Councilor Yam?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last September, the city opened up a warming center at the senior center, and I went to visit it personally. The staff were there, and the staff providing pizza, but no one shows up. So I was there, and I took some pictures, and then thanks the staff who works there with the fire department and the police officers there as well. So there are quick solution, but what the speakers talked about is more extensive, that we may not be at the moment to have resources to house and the location. In addition to that, Councillor Kutcher mentioned about the fuel assistance program. In my previous life, I worked with the families who has a shelter but are struggling to pay for the heating bill during the winter time. So I work with the local organization like CTI, help them to get some sort of fuel assistance heating to pay for their gas bill and electric bill. So there is a program, as the manager said, that the city work with our partners, including CTI and CBA. And this program has been around for a long time to help family with an apartment, with permanent shelters who are struggling to pay the bill, heating bill. And this program helped tremendously, and it's continue. And every year, everybody applied, and it's not enough funding to support everyone. That's my comment. Thank you.
Councilor Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question around LTLC for the manager. So I'm looking at the winter bed protocol for LTLC, and it says that they're open from November through mid-April. It says that they do not turn anybody away. That's what this policy says on their website, if anyone wants to look at it. It also says, do you turn anyone away when it's cold out? Do you send people back into the cold? No. LTLC always works with organizations who set up special emergency shelters during snow emergencies. Can we just confirm that this information is accurate, that they're saying that they do not turn anybody away from the cold? I want to hear that, I guess, again, that this is accurate, that they will find a partner, they will work with CTI, get a hotel room. If they are at full capacity, then, I just want confirmation.
Mr.
Thank
Manager?
you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, I can get you confirmation, but I speak to them very often. It is accurate, but I will ask again. They also work with CTI, and there's been a number of, once again, misnomers in the sense that so-and-so can't go to that shelter because that so-and-so can't be at that shelter. That problem does happen, and what they do is they'll offer that person to go to another shelter. Similar to what Lowell does. Lowell would take somebody from a different shelter if there was an issue with that person being there. So that is true, but I will we'll be talking again tomorrow. We've been talking an awful lot lately about all of this, so I will clarify and I'll give you a call. But I'm confident that that's the case.
And I had also heard similar, that there's certain people that can't get in, and I was assured that it was an alternative placement was given. Possibly there's a domestic relationship, some reason that they can't be in that shelter, and that another placement is found. So thank you.
Councilor Janosz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, I just wanted to mention that I don't think anyone who spoke here tonight, either from the public or on the council, is saying that this administration isn't doing anything or isn't trying to help. I've heard that alluded to, and I don't think that's the message, and I don't think anyone thinks or feels that. This motion is a very specific thing about a very specific aspect of the life of the unhoused during extreme temperature events. Thankfully, we have not had that this year. Knock on wood, we have not had the days on days of negative temperatures with wind chills down to -20 like we had last December and January. So this isn't about something that the administration has decided not to do. It's been something that just because of the circumstances of Mother Nature, we haven't had to do. And so the question for me is just about planning for the next time we will have to do it. Because we know as the climate is changing and things are getting more and more extreme, you know, these needs will exist. So I just wanted to make that clear. I don't want anyone to think that there's an attitude that this administration isn't doing anything, because I know you guys are working hard. I know the health department is working hard. I know our partners are working hard. And I just thought it was important to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. You know, I feel as mayor, I have to say something about this. I think I very much respectfully disagree, Councilor Janosz, with what you said about the speakers. I believe that the motion was made by two councilors that's hot, is in the right place to help those who desperately need it. But I'm sick of hearing it. You know, we hear the words inhumane, uncivilized, phasing out. And we had somebody that runs a nonprofit organization use those words tonight. He knows it's not true. He knows it's garbage. But people still continue to come to the podium and say that. Again, if we want to have the manager run down everything that him and his team does for the homeless in our neighborhoods, in our city, we'll be there for the next hour to do it. We've asked people before, have they turned anybody down? The answer is always no. I can answer Councilor Scott's question. Nobody gets turned down to the shelter. So what we want to do, we want to give everybody a house, you know, 3 cars, a fence, and a dog, and then we'll cut the grass too. Right. See, this is agenda driven. That's all it is. I'm not voting for the motion because when the city comes to me and tells me we are turning people away, we're not helping them, nonprofits can't help these people, then I'll be the third person on a motion. But does this continue to happen every 2 or 3 weeks? Not on my watch. So I'm not voting for the motion. Councilor Gitcha?
I would agree with the mayor. I listened to them say phased out by this administration over last year. If we're going to have an honest conversation, have the honest conversation. But the conversation was this administration and the council phased this out over the last year. And that's all of us in here. And I don't feel that way, but if some proof was put forward, I would certainly look into it. But every question I've asked of the administration or received from the homeless, and again, it's one-sided information. I know I've received calls that we've helped people get out of the cold. So,
Councilor Gitcha, I've called the assistant city manager multiple times on people regarding homelessness, and every single time, those people have been helped out. I've had pastors, I've had churches reach out, and I've referred every single one of them to an assistant city manager. And in every single instance, those people have been helped out.
I would agree. I did the same thing, and I reached out to somebody who reached out to the church and got somebody a 30-day hotel room, and then tried to take care of them from there. So I don't understand it, why, if there's a positive way, as Councilor Janosz said, to come forward and do this stuff, I would agree 100% with it. But when people stand up here and say we're phasing things out and they're taking the shots at everybody, it's the same people over and over again. It's the same people over and over again that send us the emails in the thing, and it's the same thing over and over again. It's one group who sends out, please get down to the council meeting. And it's the one, if you fill out their flyer, they don't want to put you on their flyer to say, oh yeah, this was a good idea. So they don't want your real idea. They just have a direction for the city, which is sad to see because we really are trying to work hard. And I take exception to me being a person who doesn't like people because I would help you in a minute. I do this job for free. Thank you.
Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know you're frustrated, Mr. Mayor. As you said, Mr. Mayor, my heart is in the right place. At no point do I say that this administration and our partner not do anything about it. I frame it as we have been actively working with our partner to house the unhoused. I simply ask that we identify, and having a location and having a policies in place. I understand that our partner do their part. What concerned me is this. I know that, we didn't get call from some of the unhoused who did not get turned away from all those shelters, all those partners. But I also got the same report, Mr. Mayor, that we have last meeting, I believe, roughly 300 of unhoused, roughly, right? And most of them got housed by our partner. There are approximately 80 or plus that was not housed, either because they do not want to be housed or because I don't know the reason for it, Mr. Mayor. But I refuse to believe that those 80 somewhat that was not unhoused, whether that during the cold, do not want or want to be out there. And that's my concern. That really is my concern. So I simply ask her to identify it into a location for the warming and cooling, and having a policies and work with our partners and maybe do more than just, I don't know, the homeless coordinator going out to the encampment, talking to people on that. So it's up to the council, what the council want to do, Mr. Mayor. I send you frustration. I think there's a bigger and I think opportunity for our city and for our administration to do more. I think just let's take that opportunity, and that's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Councilor Dakota.
Mr. Mayor, roll call.
Thank you.
Mayor Rourke.
No.
Councilor Scott.
No.
Councilor Yem.
No.
Councilor Chow.
No.
Councilor Dakota.
No.
Councilor Getchia.
No.
Councilor Janess.
Yes.
Councilor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Noon.
Yes.
Councilor Robinson.
No.
Motion fails.
6.8, Councilor Noon, Councilor Janess, request city manager work with Lowell Fire Department and local nonprofits to produce a 5-point safety protocol translated, printed in multiple languages and available to residents. Should be required in all rental properties.
There's a registered speakers here, Mr. Mayor. Sophia Sin.
Yes, sir.
Sothea Chimaron.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Sir, how are you?
City Council members, Mr. City Manager. My name is Sothea Chimrum, Executive Director with the Cambodian Mutual Assistance Association. I'm here to support motion by Councillor Noon and Janess on 6.8. A little over 2 years ago, when I started my job at CMAA, and soon after there were two major fires happened within months of each other. Well, that was one too many. One of the things that we came up within our organization was that to look at ways how we can inform and educate our community how to deal with fire safety. Since then we have looked for some money to put together educational video, and we actually we reached out to the Chief Chairman's office to put together the video, help us put together the video and provide workshops on fire safety. So, and upon hearing of this motion, I think it makes perfect sense to have, in addition to something that we already plan to do in terms of put together in video on fire safety in Khmer and providing workshop, and to have some more documentation that we on the show about fire safety to renters, to the community at large. I think it's very important. I think we have just recently, a couple of days ago, there was another big fire happening. So this is important, and I wholeheartedly support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Who wants to go first? Councilor Noon?
Sure, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, sir. Again, let me say this, that our fire department, Chief Sharon, have done a very good job. This is not about that the city's fire department do not have a prevention materials out there. They're working very hard on fire prevention, and every water festival, they're out there educating the public. There's opportunity to do more. Again, CMAA have received grant to do that, so will not cost the city to do so. But with the assistance from the fire prevention, in this case, Chief Sharon and his staff, to do either video and or the material, print material, and with those video, I think you can just do a lot using LTC. A lot of hosts at LTC doing their show every day, at different hours. Use that and then promote that, educate more of the public as to how to prevent fire. I said a five tip, but the chief know what to do because and his team. So I'll leave it up to him. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Janas?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Newt said it all. I don't have anything to add.
Councilor Yam?
Just a quick question for my own education. What are the 5-point fire safety? And number one. Number two, there are a number of videos that on YouTube right now, including one for the kids for the fire safety. One of the video called Fire Drill at School. So that's a good one, and also for adult as well. So without reinventing the wheel, maybe the fire chief can take a look at it and maybe ask permission from other department that has already a video to maybe use it and maybe altered or modified to fit our community here in the city of Lowell. And if you need a voiceover in Khmer, I volunteer to do that. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is an excellent motion by my colleagues. I think it's very important that we get this information out and translated. My only, I guess, comment, suggestion, I would just ask if there's been any consideration, if you're already doing this work, to consider including fall prevention language within the translation. When you're talking about rental properties, tragically, I mean, through the years, we've seen, situations happen in the city that I think could definitely be preventable. And if we're getting into translating materials, I would really appreciate fall prevention being included. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. If you get into the schools too, Councilor, that'd be a good idea, right? Excellent.
I'll leave it to the chief. He knows
Very
it.
good. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. Moving on to Section 7, Communications from the City Manager. Response A, water main breaks. Councilor Gitche.
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. I wanted to thank the manager and his staff, but I do have a question to the executive director, if that's possible. Good evening, Executive Director Deschaines. Over the last year, I want to commend your staff because this is a major change from what we've seen in the past. We've seen a lot of work done by contractors in people not answering their calls for overtime. Has your staff been more responsive lately for the late night calls? Because at one point we had people that said no.
I'm sorry. Yeah, they have been more responsive. We reinstituted the standby serviceman, so the responses are a lot quicker. They seem to respond better. When I started there a year and a half ago, it seemed to be like a can't-do attitude. I'm trying to change it little by little. but also a lot of credit goes to the city manager for making those positions more competitive with outside communities as well.
He's not supposed to get credit.
Give credit where credit is due.
That's your job, Council.
You know, that's what I was getting at. Of the 17 breaks that you have listed, most of them are really not breaks. You know, when you look at it, you look at 6 of them out of the 17 were not really breaks. Like 3 of them were found during, 3 of the outliers were found during sewer work.
Exactly.
So there were depressions that ran into a basin that kind of filtered in. So that's not something that you even recognize. The sewer, wastewater had found those. So it's not like you're calling someone in and they didn't answer the phone.
Exactly, yeah.
The other one that I'm surprised that has been charged to this and not capital was the Martin Street Bridge. Those 2 gates, that should have went to the capital project. So
We were under a high time constraint with that, with the contractor that was doing the job, so it was just easier to get that going in instead of going through the capital, because it actually wasn't set aside as a project as well.
No, I understand. And just the other one on Varnum Ave is another one. So when I just look at these, it looks like, from the January 8th moment on, we're moving in a direction that is extremely satisfying to a lot of us, because when we start looking at the deficits in water and wastewater and the rates that we're raising and stuff like that, you look from that point forward of the January 8th point, you'll see everyone had not available underneath the cost for a contractor. And I want to applaud you and your staff, especially your staff, for coming in those late hours, cold, and getting this work done for the city. And I think it has a great benefit on their side. And like you said about the manager and increasing the salaries, that's a great offset to actually pay those salaries. So please thank your staff from the city council, from all of us, because I think it's important that we're seeing benefits out of not just raising the rates that people are being paid, but we're seeing a benefit out of it that actually is a cost savings on that end. And I think the CFO appreciates that in the end, that actually we gave a little, but we're getting our fair share back on the city side. So please thank them for us.
I will do that. Thank you, Councilor.
Excellent. Promotion response B, human resources training. Councilor Getcha.
This must be my lucky day.
Welcome, Attorney Osborne. Good to see you. And
good afternoon, Mr. Mayor.
Good luck going with the Councilor Getcha for your first shot. Yeah.
I'll try to be easy.
Don't resign tomorrow.
I'm trying to keep him, so it's not an easy seat to be in for him. When I made this motion, it was more so not a benefit towards human resource expertise people. It was more so for the middle management to try to gain some HR experience and try to look at this seminar than just for someone who should be in an office, who should already have this knowledge. So this seminar should be something that they already know, so it should be kind of boring for them. So that's why having their expertise go to this and then come back, it's going to show, okay, we can teach this, but that wasn't the point. The point was to try to get, middle management such as Mr. Deschaines or the parking director or someone else who does a lot of the ground game of the hiring process more involved in it, and see what the challenges are at your level, so they don't have to keep coming to your level and going back and forth. And that's really what the seminar piece was here. It wasn't so much for your staff, but I guess we're going to have to work on that, and I don't know that Suffolk University will ever offer this again, so that's where it was more of. But thank you for coming. You did the smart thing. All you did was nod, and it worked well. Thank you.
I'm okay with nodding. Mr. Chair, again, I'm a strong proponent of as much training as we can get. If we start with our Human Resources Department, that's fine. If there's other opportunities to train other department heads, certainly I would look to do that.
And what I would ask the manager through you, Mr. Mayor, is I know that when you look at their account and you look at their budget, it's not really heavily budgeted for professional development pieces, or if we can look at the manager's account to do some of these professional developments and send some of these department heads to these trainings, I think you'll see that it'll have a major benefit to everybody in the city, and we'll have we'll have better trained people, and they'll feel more involved in the hiring process and understand what HR actually goes through in the process. And I know there's probably a challenge in their budget, but training can come out of the manager's office. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion response C, wireless emergency alerts. Councilor Yam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank Chief Sharon for the response, and I'm happy to see that we are 3 weeks away to implement this new system. I can remember a few months back, the first time ever the city of Lowell received the wireless emergency alert due to, it's on Sunday morning, I remember almost 8 a.m. Regarding the tornado. So if this system in effect will help a lot more, with other emergency that will be broadcasting on the cell phone, even though individual may not live in Lowell, but travel through Lowell or visiting relative in Lowell will also receive this alert as well. I just have one question, because the question about the snow emergency, would the snow emergency consider to be an alert can be utilized by the WE system, sir?
So thank you, Councilor, for that question. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Councilor. I first of all want to apologize that the motion response was not credited to you. That was a mistake on my part. But in relation to snow emergencies, it depends on the gradient of the emergency. Obviously, if we were looking at a severe blizzard condition, we'd be able to use that in a local capacity. But for your average snowstorm, it wouldn't be something that we would use.
Thank you.
Any comments? Thank you, Chief. Good. Motion response D, generators at firehouses. Councilor Getchia.
Thank you, Mayor Rourke. Through you to the fire chief. I would have been more interested in seeing not the age of the fire stations, but the age of the electrical systems within. I'm sure there's nothing in the Gorham Street Fire Station that's from 1875, I hope, but maybe there is. But when you look at the the outline, obviously you're starting to work towards the same goal as we're all looking at, and if the electrical systems are that far out, we certainly need them replaced anyway. It's not something that shouldn't be replaced. And my concern is that every time we lose electricity, that now you have people going back and having to light candles or flashlights or something within there. They can't wash their gear for the next run, and you got to push open the doors and everything like that. So I'm hoping that this is pushed to the forefront as it outlines in here, and I'm not sure with the owner project manager really. I get we're utilizing them everywhere because of cost, and once you bundle all of these in, the cost goes over the project, so now you have to have the owner's project manager involved. But at the end of the day, some of these might have been pretty simple, like Old Ferry Road should be one that's pretty straightforward, you would hope, to get a generator in since it's 1977, but one would hope that we can get to a place where these could get done with relatively ease over the next couple of years, and I don't know, the CFO would know better than me about their capital budget towards this piece and how are we going to fund these things, but this is in a very extreme importance to the community because of, we don't have backup generators in these firehouses, and when we start going back and you're washing equipment or you're even looking for something, it takes time off of your response times, and I think that's what we all are looking forward to, and you do unbelievable work with, but I'm very concerned when we don't have this, and I'm hoping that this gets put to the forefront of our building maintenance program.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through the council. Council, we've been talking about this with the OPM. Given that the state of assistance that these buildings need as a whole, we figured to put it in here. And of quite frankly, we were looking at this, and the chief had come up with what some of these places may or may not be able to handle the generator. So we hope to be moving forward this budget cycle with some capital monies towards this. And last year, the council moved forward with monies for an OPM. So this is all very much in gear. And thank you to the chief and his crew for pulling that forward, saying, we're ready to go out and purchase them tomorrow, quite frankly, because we cannot have a public safety building that does not have energy, power. It just is something that it hasn't happened since I'd been here, and I'm not sure how many times it's happened in the past, but it's something that is not acceptable. We need them to be in power at all times. So this is, I would say, a heightened alert, given the fact that we had a few of those houses that were without power. So you can rest assured that I know that Chief Keen has been working with Mr. Byrne as well as DPW and the chief to make this a high priority.
Could you just update us as this goes along and just keep us informed on,
100%.
The OPM came back with this, here we are, so that we all can have the same information at real time and not, get it later than, because I think it's important just to have this handy as we all look to our fire department for safety. Thank you.
I need a motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Leahy, second by Councilor Janess. All those in favor say aye. Motion passes. 7.2, communication, resignations of members from various boards and commissions. Motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Noon. All those in favor say aye. Motion passes. 7.3, appointments to various boards and commissions as follows. Daniel Tenza to the Planning Board, and Roberto Ciccarelli to the Conservation Commission. Need a motion to adopt by Councilor Yam, second by Councilor Noon. Roll call.
Mayor Rock.
Yes.
Councilor Scott.
Yes.
Councilor Yem.
Yes.
Councilor Chow.
Yes.
Councilor Dakota.
Yes.
Councilor Getchia.
Yes.
Councilor Janess.
Yes.
Councilor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Noon.
Yes.
Councilor Robinson.
Yes.
11 yeas.
Thank you. 7.4, city manager requests out-of-state travel. Lowell Police Department, need a motion to adopt by Councilor Janess, second by Councilor Dakota. Roll call.
Mayor Rock.
Yes.
Councilor Scott.
Yes.
Councilor Yem.
Yes.
Councilor Chow.
Yes.
Councilor Dakota.
Yep.
Councilor Getchia.
Yes.
Councilor Janess.
Yes.
Councilor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Noon. Yes. Councilor Robinson.
Yes.
11 yeas.
8, orders of the city manager. 8.1, dedicate Unsworth Street and Bunker Hill intersection for Norman Pellin. Going to waive the full reading and second reading by title. A motion to adopt by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Yem. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If there's a ceremony, could we be made aware of the date and time if one would take place? Thank you.
I second that, please.
Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Rock.
Yes.
Councilor Scott.
Yes.
Councilor Yem.
Yes.
Councilor Chow.
Yes.
Councilor Dakota.
Yes.
Councilor Getchia. Yes. Councilor Janess.
Yes.
Councilor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Noon.
Yes.
Councilor Robinson.
Yes.
11 yeas.
Section 9, subcommittee reports. There was a scheduled public safety subcommittee meeting for this evening. We had a little confusion with the men's reception room where we had some voting stations delivered, so that was unable to be used for an event that we had for a citation for Bishop Stanley Choate. Very well attended. It was great to issue the citation and to hear from the bishop. I just want to personally thank Chairman Noon of the Public Safety Subcommittee for volunteering to postpone his subcommittee so we can honor the bishop here tonight. So, Council, thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, like I said, you cannot go before the bishop, the Lord's servant,
Made the right choice. That's right, yes. Section 10, petitions. 3 property damage claims. Need a motion to refer to the Law Department for report and recommendation by Councilor Scott, second by Councilor Yem. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Any announcements? Councilor Janess.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to take a quick moment just to acknowledge and thank everyone involved in pulling off Winterfest this past weekend. Case, Public Safety, DPW, and everyone else. I think it was a great event. Downtown was a fantastic venue. It looked great. People had a good time. I think it was pulled off, and I can't say thank you enough to everyone who pitched in for that. I know it's a lot of work for a Friday night and a Saturday, but it came off well, and I think the city looked great for it, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Councilor Mercia?
It was a pleasure to see Lucy at Winterfest as well. Thank you.
Very well done event, Mr. Manager. Every councilor at some point in time was downtown this weekend, as well as a ton of people, so well done. Councilor Dakota?
Kudos to Councilor Chow's son. The kid's a prodigy. He was really great guitarist. I enjoyed listening to
It's fun
him.
to listen to him. Councilor Robinson?
Thank you. I think we discussed a while ago pedestrian-friendly middle in Palmer, so I think you saw the results of giving it a pilot. So that test run was, I think, very successful, and I heard from quite a bit of people that they think that setup is ideal. I think the businesses were happy, and I think a lot of our residents were happy, as well as the guests.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to the council. Council, thank you very much for all of your support during this weekend. And Lucy was the hit of the show. I think we know that. But for those of you that don't know, Lucy is the official dog, I think. And I think my dog Finnegan would be upset about that. But I know everyone else has their pets as well, Councilor Leahy. But I want to say thank you very much to Case and the entire team for making it happen. We had so many people that had donated financial monies to help to make this happen. But I have to say a special shout out to Enterprise Bank. Enterprise Bank really, truly went above and beyond. So to thank Enterprise Bank for loaning us their land, as well as being a corporate donor. We have a lot of corporate donors out there that I go through the list and thank all of them, which we've done. And I know, Mr. Mayor, that you're going to be sending out letters as well, thanking each and every one of them on behalf of the council as I. But Enterprise really went above and beyond and really helped us out. So thank you very much to the Lowell Police Department, our fire department that was down there. We really stretched and did some different things. And I think it was an exciting time. But once again, that was an idea that was born right here. We were having a discussion about how to liven up the downtown, and Middle and Palmer seems to be the call, and we'll continue. Rumor has it we may be having a couple of others, if that rumor's to believe, because a couple of councils that I'm looking at right now are already trying to push other events down there before the end of December. So thank you, councils, for that support. It was a great weekend. And thank you to all that attended.
Motion adjourned by Councilor Getchia, second by Councilor Dakota. Good night.